Ottawa.
City News.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, November the 19th. I'm Chris Curries. Right now in Ottawa, 2 degrees. We've got a bit of light snow scattered throughout the region and 1 degree in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. A couple of major COVID-related announcements on the way from the federal government today. And the first comes this morning with official word that vaccines are being approved for kids between the ages of 5 and 11. Our Kevin Meisner joins us with the story.
An expedited delivery of 2.9 million doses of Pfizer vaccine is headed for Canada. These would be enough doses for child-sized doses for every child eligible between the ages of 5 and 11 years old. We should get a timeline on what the details would be of the Health Canada approval of the child-sized doses later on this morning at 10 o'clock. Now, Alan tells me he is excited to get his 5 and 9-year-old kids vaccinated, although the thought of the needle isn't going over well at home.
It's tough. They're terrified. So the youngest one breaks down in tears every time she hears about the COVID shot, and it's not good. But it'll be short, and get the shot, get it over with, and do it a couple times, and hopefully they're vaccinated, and in the long run, it's great for everybody.
Well, there are some kids, including 9-year-old George, who are like, eyes on the prize, guys.
I was really excited because I want to get the shot, because I want everybody to have the shot so that we can go to the movie theater and we won't need masks anymore.
Ontario's Health Minister Christine Elliott saying the province's booking system should be ready for families and their children's vaccination appointments as early as next week. Kevin Meisner, City News.
Now, this afternoon, federal ministers expected to announce Canada is lifting the rule that forces travelers taking trips of 72 hours or less to the U.S. to take a pricey COVID-19 test to get back into the country. Critics complain the rule is expensive, cumbersome, and redundant. City News time is 9:02. While people in some parts of the world still haven't had a first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, an informal survey suggests at least 1 million doses have gone to waste in Canada. That figure based on a survey of health ministries by the Canadian Press. Alberta reported disposing of 10% of its doses because they had expired or for other reasons, while Ontario refused to provide any information. Experts say some waste is to be expected, but Canada should be aiming for the lowest amount possible. City News time is 9:02. In the U.S., COVID-19 booster shots now available to all adults. Pfizer and Moderna announced the Food and Drug Administration's decision this morning. The move allows anyone 18 or older to choose either company's booster 6 months after their last dose, regardless of which vaccine they already received. But there's one more step. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention must agree to expand Pfizer and Moderna boosters to even healthy young adults. Its scientific advisors set to discuss boosters later today. Here at home, Health Canada authorized Pfizer and Moderna's booster shots for adults 18 and older earlier this month. Now let's take a look at your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
It's a cool one. Some flurries this morning, otherwise varying amounts of sun and cloud. A gusty wind out of the west-northwest, and the high only 3 degrees. Tonight, mainly clear, -5. And for the weekend, clouds increase Saturday. Flurries or showers Saturday night into Sunday, and some more showers Sunday. Highs on the weekend about 6 degrees. For today, the high 3.
And I'm Chris Curries. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Separating headlines
from hearsay.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Friday. We made it. It flew by. What a week. What a week in news. Not over yet. Good morning. Welcome to the Rob Snow Show on City News. We have some great Friday fare on the way, and we might even break some news along the way. Standing by, it is the one and only, some say one too many, best-selling author, legendary broadcaster, Lowell Green. Derek Fage, host of Daytime Ottawa on Rogers Television. He'll join us right after the 9:30 news. Bruce McIntyre with Valley View. He is our correspondent from up the line. He's with the Eganville Leader. Steve Warren on sports. Mercifully, the red-black season concludes tonight with what was once, not that long ago, a classic matchup with the Montreal Alouettes, but such a disappointing season for the Red Blacks, no doubt about that. Sens and COVID, that was a big story this week. The NFL, we'll get into all of it. Do the Queen's Park Week in Review with our MPPs. Gee, I wonder what we'll talk about when our MPPs join us this morning. And our special guest this morning is going to be the Mayor of Ottawa, Jim Watson. Will be on the Rob Snow Show at 9:45. And I wonder might come up. You know what? I have never seen things in Jim Watson's world during his time as mayor so tumultuous as they are right now. I mean, the mayor is getting it from all sides. All the lefties are mad at him. They're calling him an autocrat. They call his allies around the council table cronies. They come very close to accusing him of perpetrating a light rail cover-up. There was a quote in the newspaper this week from one of his former council colleagues, the former top lefty around the council table at Ottawa City Hall, Diane Holmes, and she called Jim Watson a conservative in liberal clothing. A conservative and liberal clothing. So that's what he's getting from the lefties. Then from the right-wingers, he has to deal with the Ford government. And Doug Ford has just come along and totally rocked Jim Watson's world by calling this public inquiry into the city's failed, I call it failed, light rail system. And the mayor is upset because he wasn't given a heads up by anyone at Queen's Park that they were going to call this inquiry. And it sounds as though he's shifting all of the blame for years of transit problems to RTG, to RTM, whatever it's called, SNC Lavalin and Company. It's all their fault, according to the mayor. Well, maybe we shouldn't have picked a contractor that had already been blacklisted by the World Bank. So he shifts the blame over to RTM, but at the same time defends public-private partnerships as a way to get big infrastructure projects done, which is kind of confusing. Because on the one hand, he is condemning the performance of the city's private partner while at the same time defending these very sort of arrangements. So we have a lot to talk about, obviously, because he has a big decision coming on whether he's going to run again. And the municipal election is now less than a year away. And the results of this public inquiry could be made public if the Ford government has its way, could be made public just in time for the municipal election. And we know that there are people in this city who are seriously thinking about running for mayor. People like Bob Chiarelli, people like Diane Deans, Councillor McKinney, Councillor Fleury. Now, if I was the mayor, I wouldn't be worried. I would say, hey, the more the merrier. You split the vote as many ways amongst yourselves. But maybe it all depends on what's uncovered as a result of this inquiry into the most significant infrastructure project since the Rideau Canal for this city. I will say this, though. Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson has told me in the past that when he hits the campaign trail, he always does so under the assumption, he always operates under the assumption and tells his team to work as though you are behind by 10 points in the polls, even if you're up by 30. Always work from the assumption that you're behind by 10 points in the polls. But who knows? Who knows? Come next fall, he might actually be behind by 10 points in the polls. 9:45, Jim Watson on the Rob Snow Show. In the middle of every one of our shows, there's you. Between 10 and 11 o'clock, we do the Talk Back Hour. Every Friday, it's the Friday Free for All. It's an hour of your opinions, an hour of your phone calls at 750-1310. And during the Friday free-for-all, we don't come up with the topics. Okay? We've come up with topics all week. We want you to come up with the topics and talk about whatever you want to talk about. You know, within reason, we'll roll with it. We had a lot of red-hot topics this week. Oh, yes, we did. In addition to the public inquiry into light rail, which set the phone lines on fire here yesterday during the Rob Snow Show, situation in British Columbia the day before that, we talked about that. Climate change, front and center again in the national discussion. I guess one of the biggest debates, I think, coming out of this latest natural disaster will be this. We've been warned about a warming world, right? About climate change and the threat posed by it all for decades. For decades. 30 years, at least 30 years. So I think the next debate is going to be, why haven't governments, if they've known about this for 30 years, why haven't governments at all levels done more, invested more to improve infrastructure? Lots of money spent on lots of things with lots of questionable returns, like wind farms and solar farms here in Ontario. But what about the infrastructure? So that when severe weather hits, like an atmospheric river rolls across British Columbia, the Coquihalla Highway is not cut in half, cutting off 3 million people from the rest of the country. Why do we continue to allow building on floodplains? Why is that even happening in this country in the year 2021? Mitigation, adaptation. There are some in the climate industry who say already it's irreversible. Climate change is irreversible. That this is what they say, we are so deep into it. The climate crisis, the damage is so severe already, it's irreversible. You hear that from time to time. So then, shouldn't the next great debate be not about CO2, but about more resilient infrastructure? You know, that's one topic that's out there. Pay raises for nurses was a hot one this week here on the Rob Snow Show. It sure was. The inflation rate was reported by Statistics Canada on Wednesday as being 4.7%, highest in 18 years. Our nurses are in line for a 1% raise. In other words, in real income terms, they're going to lose money. Our healthcare heroes. You had a lot to say about that this week, and the week is not over. So let's talk some more on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
It's such a beautiful feel because it's all natural. I'm able to talk to a lot of people who are going through different journeys of health where they really don't know where to start, where to begin. And I'm happy and grateful to have all this knowledge where I can actually help them and guide them. So, of course, you know, medications have a great place in our system, but even so do natural therapies, which have been around for centuries and centuries. Like, you know, old time, ancient times, everything, herbs grew, everything was done with nature, all healing was done with nature. So I'm totally in love with all the elements with nature. In our beautiful village of Manotick, the Manotick Natural Market, you can find tremendous different things. So we have herbs, we have vitamins, we have natural body care, we do infrared sauna therapy, nutrition counseling, acupuncture, Bowen therapy, energy healing. So we're like a wellness hub along with being a full health food store. We are 1 year into pandemic since it started last year in March. It was a shock. Usually I see things coming, and I definitely did not see that coming. Golden Root is a product that I created 4 years ago, actually for my kids, just for immune system, overall health. And it just took off with certain friends of mine who had cancer, some severe issues, and they started finding that it was really helping them from different tests they had done with their doctor. And I knew I had something really special. So then I went through the proper procedure of being able to sell it. So it's actually, I'm not allowed to make it anymore in my house 4 years ago, and it is made in a Health Canada approved lab, and then it comes to me. And what Golden Root is a formulation of turmeric, ginger, lavender, oregano, and black pepper, all food grade, which is the most bioavailable turmeric in the market right now for pain, inflammation, digestion, immune system, concussion, liver health, and brain health. So, and it tastes like salad dressing. We do a lot of in-house, so we make our in-house concoctions of teas. You can come here, tell us what your health issues are, and we can blend it right there. And there's some that are already prepared beforehand for sleeping, for anxiety, for different things. And in that bar, we basically make cold brew teas and cold brew nitrogen coffee. And again, it's all local. Everything we do is local, and as many herbs we can find locally as well. If a client can't come out, we'll go out our way to deliver it. And you're getting that personal touch when you come in. If you have an issue, we will listen and help you. We're very, very active in the community, so we would like the same thing back for the community to come to.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News 101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Legendary broadcaster, best-selling author, keeper of fine pigeons, Lord of the Coupe de Carpe. Good morning, Lowell Green.
Good morning, Rob Snow.
Yeah.
I don't know quite why all the controversy over Doug Ford calling for a public inquiry. My reading of the community is that this is overwhelmingly what people in this community want. I don't know. I'm sure that you had a program during which people, expressed their opinions.
Oh, yes, that was yesterday. Yeah.
Is it not true that most people favored some sort of public inquiry?
Most people did, yes.
Well, on my show, it was the same thing. I was about 10-1 in favor. I conveyed that message to Doug Ford's office. I have contacts there, and they were very, very pleased to hear that. They hadn't heard very much, actually, from Ottawa, or certainly citizens in Ottawa. So my feeling is that Doug Ford has done exactly what the great majority of people in this city want and have been demanding for some time. So why the mayor or any member of city council should be upset at this, I don't know. It seems to me that the vote in council, 13-10 opposed to a public inquiry, went against the public wishes. And so to me...
Plus, it's a bad look. It's a bad look. I mean, it makes you look like you have something to hide. Right?
Well, a number of reasons. I mean, this is a huge project. Don't forget, the idea that Doug Ford has no responsibility, the province of Ontario, by the time this is over, will have kicked in more than $2 billion.
That's right.
And besides which, there's only one taxpayer anyway, and, you see that taxpayer every morning when you brush your teeth in the mirror.
Yeah.
So, well, I hope you don't brush your teeth in the mirror, but you understand my point.
I sometimes brush my teeth in the mirror. I do. What's wrong with that?
But I don't understand. Now, there's another factor involved, and I know that this really affected Doug Ford's office, and that was the information, which, from my point of view, has been largely lost in the media, the information that, in fact, the city of Ottawa, or at least some officials, were warned that there were problems with this several weeks before we took official delivery of this.
That's right.
As we all know now, John Manconi wrote to a number of city officials and said, hey, this thing has got some serious problems, et cetera, et cetera. This information was available. My city councilor here is Eli L. Shanteri, for whom I've always had great respect. 2 days ago, I phoned him and I said, Eli, you must tell me, did you know prior to accepting official delivery that this thing was faulty, that there were problems? And if you did not know, what do you plan to do about it? And please let me know. I haven't heard back from him, but I think this begs the question. I think it's highly doubtful. If, in fact, John Manconi wrote wrote city officials to warn them of problems. It seems improbable to me that the mayor was not notified of this. And it seems improbable to me as well that at least some members of city council weren't fully aware that there were serious problems with this before we accepted delivery. And if they did know, why the hell did they approve it? It's just one more question.
Why did they approve the launch? Yeah, why did they? Yeah,
precisely.
Yeah.
I mean, my analogy is, look, you find a really nice house, okay? She's in Rockcliffe there. It's really expensive, $2 million. So you send a building inspector in. The building inspector and says, geez, there's some real serious problems here, you know?
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of repairs that you weren't aware of. Would you buy the house? Only if you're nuts. So, but this apparently is what we did here. And the other question, there's another question in this regard.
Yeah.
If, in fact, city officials, including the mayor, were not apprised of these problems prior to delivery, why were they not? The whole thing, once again, it just cries out for a public inquiry. What the hell is going on with this thing?
You know what I was thinking about this morning, Lowell, is I was sitting here getting ready, and I was thinking to myself, another light rail show.
Yeah.
Okay, another light rail show. And I started thinking back, next year will be my 22nd year in talk radio in Ottawa.
Right.
Okay. 22 years, 20
You're
of them.
heading for my record.
No, only to be so lucky. But 20 of them have been consumed by this issue. 20 years of light rail. For 20 years, we have been talking, debating, having elections over some kind of rail transit infrastructure in Ottawa.
Yeah.
20 years, Lowell.
I know.
And I hold you partially responsible for the mess that the city finds itself in today. The fact is, we had a plan. We had the North-South Light Rail plan that would be up and running right now. Would be running this very day. From Barrhaven all the way to Ottawa U. The original price tag for that, we signed a contract for that for $788 million. Now that might get you a spur line to the airport. Now $788 million. And you went on the air every day on your show. Oh, it's a milk run, and we've got to kill this. Project's got to be canceled. You convinced somehow John Baird to withhold funding. You led the charge to elect Larry O'Brien to press the reset button. You were knee deep into that. You know what? You may be more responsible for the failure of light rail in Ottawa than Jim Watson.
Oh, give me a break. Absolutely not. Everything I said was absolutely right. And by the way, Andy Hayden and Lowell Green were the only two who raised any doubts about the light rail situation we have now. If we had listened to Andy Hayden and instead of delayed tracks and trains and instead employed high-efficiency modern electric buses, we wouldn't have the problem we've got now. But so
every day, Lowell Green on the radio.
I certainly have no apologies.
It's a milk run. No, it'll take forever.
Oh, you've got this. You've got this hair crossways. But listen, you've been at this on the as far as light rail goes, transportation for about 20 years, which is about as long as we have been debating whether, in fact, this planet is burning up. Now, there's no question that it's a tragedy that's occurred in BC. But if we're talking about global warming, climate change, et cetera, I just want to remind you that there is something very, very strange happening all throughout the Caribbean and the Pacific. Almost no hurricanes. This is turning out to be a record low number of hurricanes in the hurricane alleys. I mean, there's aside from a couple of minor hurricanes earlier in the year, there hasn't been hardly a single hurricane. So, all of these people who talk about all the hurricanes and tornadoes, it hasn't happened this year.
Well, you know what? Ask them in British Columbia right now if they give a flying you-know-what about hurricanes crossing the Bahamas right now. They've had towns burned to the ground. They've had Lytton, British Columbia burned to the ground. Now 30 minutes away, they have this happening.
But whether that's a cause of global warming or just bad forestry is hard to say. But not only that, and you raised this issue, why are we building houses on a floodplain? My understanding that much of the flooded area now used to be a lake. So I don't know. But here is one other.
The Sumas Prairie used to be a lake.
Let me get in a couple words here.
All right.
If we're really concerned about global warming, why aren't we attacking the real problem? About 40% of all CO2 emissions come from two countries, India and China.
Yeah.
Now,
Very good point.
India burns about 70% of all of its power comes from coal. In China, it's about 60%. If you do the mathematics, you see that somewhere between 25 and 30% of all the world's CO2 emissions are coming from the burning of coal in two nations, India and China. If we could stop the burning of coal in those two countries, we wouldn't have this problem. A reduction of 25 to 30% is far more than we are aiming for right now. So why are we spending billions and billions of dollars in Canada, 1.6% of all emissions, Norway less than 2%? I could go on and on.
Sure. Yeah.
Why is not the United Nations, and in fact all nations, saying, look, the real problem is the burning of coal in two nations, India and China. If we stop that, even though we may have to pour billions here in a way of a loan or whatever it is,
right,
this is where the problem is.
Why don't we try and sell them?
We should be doing to stop it.
Sell them some of our technology. Sell them some of our nuclear
technology. If we
technology.
converted all of India's coal-fired plants into natural gas, we could, and if we loaned them the money or the technology or a good chunk of it, we could have that market. We could sell our natural gas to them, and we could make
natural
money
gas,
on it.
nuclear as well. But
or
look,
nuclear, whatever it is. But
listen,
what I'm saying is that we're not concentrating on. We're concentrating on countries like Norway and Sweden and Ireland and Canada, which combined produce less than 5%. In the meantime, the burning of coal. I want to pound this in people's heads. The burning of coal in two countries accounts for 25 to 30% of all global warming emissions.
Okay. We have about 2 minutes left here. I want to ask you...
are you going to lecture me in this?
No, I'm not going to lecture you this time. But I will ask you a question because I found the responses very interesting this week from my audience, which is typically kind of a right-of-center, fiscally conservative audience.
Smart people.
But 4.7% inflation. Now, 2019... Doug Ford brings in what I would call an austerity measure and tells a large part of the public service you have to take a 1% raise a year for the next 3 years.
Right.
And but it was pre-COVID, right? Before anybody knew anything about COVID. The nurses are going to chase Doug Ford to the end of the earth to try and get rid of that.
Yeah.
Do the nurses deserve better than 1% raises? What do you think? Yeah.
They do. Everybody deserves more. But the problem is, if you start, it's a catch-22.
Right.
That's the problem. It's all very well to say, well, I deserve more money. But that just adds to inflation. And I'm going to tell you, until Trudeau stops pumping billions and billions of dollars that we don't need out into the community. I mean, we're still handing out money to people who claim they can't get a job. When you drive along the Carp Road and every damn business along there is crying out for people. There are businesses along here that I drive by very often that are offering bonuses, $1,000, $2,000 bonus to join us. And yet we're still handing out billions of dollars to people who claim, I can't find a job. I mean, it's crazy. Not only that, you wonder why we have inflation. The carbon tax, let's just talk about a farmer. Some farmers in Saskatchewan are paying carbon tax $4,000 to $5,000 a month on propane to heat their wheat. Now, if you're going to have to pay all that money, extra money, just to dry your wheat, okay?
Yep.
Just think of it. Hey, wheat is, sure, it's in pasta, it's in bread, but it's also fed to cattle, it's fed to chickens, it's fed to pork. I could go on and on and on. This is the kind of thing that's driving up the price of food and everything else, for God's sake. I mean, you cannot continue to pump out billions of dollars to people who should be working and could be working, and then add more and more carbon tax all of the time. 49 cents of every liter of gasoline that you buy is tax of one form or another. I mean, you know what, Rob? What scares me?
Yeah.
I don't know when this is going to end. 4.7, increase now. I lived through a time when the interest rates were increasing 18 and 20%.
Yeah.
Are we headed for that? I don't know. But if we continue along this path, what's going to stop it?
Okay. Talk next week. Thanks, Lowell.
Good morning.
Bye-bye. Lowell Green. The news next. This is City News.
1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, November the 19th. I'm Chris Curries. Right now in Ottawa, it's 1 degree. In Smiths Falls, it's 2. We've got a bit of light snow showers throughout the region. Here's what's making news this hour. This just into the City Newsroom. Health Canada has approved the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 5 to 11. Almost 3 million doses expected to rapidly arrive in the country. And Ontario Health Minister Christine Elliott says parents will likely be able to book vaccine appointments for their kids as early as next week. Dr. Vera Etches of Ottawa Public Health says after-hours clinics will be open at local schools over the next 4 weeks, where the expectation is that roughly 10,000 little arms can get vaccinated each week. Now, this afternoon, the Trudeau government also expected to announce that it is eliminating the widely criticized rule requiring people taking short trips into the U.S. to take a pricey COVID-19 test to return home. Officials have been warning for days that more people may have died in flooding and landslides in BC. RCMP say they've received reports of 4 missing people at a landslide. Search teams now include the arrival of 120 Canadian Armed Forces members in Abbotsford. And city councillors breathing a sigh of relief that the province holding a public inquiry into the LRT. The mayor, while supportive yesterday, says the Auditor General-run inquiry initiated by the city would be better suited for them. We'll hear more from the mayor this morning on the Rob Snow Show at 9:45. You can listen live at 101.1 FM, 1310 AM, or on your smart speaker. City News time is 9:33. I'm Chris Curries. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News,
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Derek Fage is the host of Daytime Ottawa, back with us this morning here on the Rob Snow Show on City News. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Good. How was the week?
Excellent. Week's been great.
Good.
Lots of stuff going on. You know, the holidays are coming, so lots of charity events, lots of holiday events going on. International Poetry Festival going on right now, which is pretty cool, actually. They've got almost 80 poets. Yeah, for 7 different countries from around the world, so they're doing this simultaneous, in-person capacity limits and virtually, and, just the usual around this time, holiday gift ideas. You got the Snowsuit Fund, of course, that's going on, some local authors, fitness getting us off our butts. This one's for you, Rob. Tacos and tequila. We talked with the Lone Star Texas Grill.
Tacos. I don't really do tequila, but tacos I can get into.
You're not into the tequila?
I don't really do tequila, no.
Yeah.
I actually kind of avoid the hard stuff, to tell you the truth.
Well, that's smart.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah. Just cheap domestic beer. So I know what to expect.
Good choice.
Right.
It's a good choice.
I do enjoy a Caesar every now and then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm very Canadian of
that is a very Canadian drink. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
For those that are listening and don't know, we invented that drink.
Yes, we did. We did. Yeah. With the authors, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to do some interviews probably in the month of December. It's been a tough couple of years for local authors. They look forward to, like, all the Christmas craft shows would typically be like, a chance for them to go and meet their readers and sign books and pitch their wares. And, COVID's just been a killer on that. It's been a killer on local bookstores. Right. So it's been tough. It's really been tough for local
We've actually had an author on the show each day this week. We've got another one coming up. You probably know Don Butler, former Ottawa Citizen journalist.
Yep, Ottawa Citizen.
His brand new book. And he actually sent me a lovely note saying the day after he was on Daytime, his book numbers went up, exponentially. So
on Amazon, that's right. Yeah. No.
Come on Daytime and watch the numbers climb, my friend.
There you go. Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. And like my friend Randall Denley, who's here every week on the Rob Snow Show, has this great series, the Chris Redner series. Ron Corbett has done all the books about Algonquin Park and The Last Guide, and he has a great mystery series on the go now as well. The detective's name is Yakabuski. Detective Yakabuski. Yeah, which is like a great Ottawa Valley name, and it's his books have become like a giant hit in the UK of all places, right? Where they're just like there's a market out there. People like stories. Like people in other countries like kind of dark, mysterious stories that are set in Ottawa. There's something about that. Yeah.
And we have an amazing, like when it comes to crime and mystery authors. Yeah. Here in this city, we have some of the best. So if you're looking to, we always talk about it, buy local. If you're looking for something for somebody that's a book lover out there, really look up some of these local authors. Yeah. They're amazing.
Andrew King, Andrew King's books, They're all, all very cool. So, look, the big news this week, public inquiry to be called by the Ford government, not Ottawa City Council, to examine Ottawa's light rail. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that decision?
I love the decision. I mean, as you said, we all blame Lowell Green for this. He's responsible for getting us in this mess in the first place. Jim Watson coming out, the mayor, initially saying he's not going to comment because I haven't received any communication from the province. Why politicize it in that manner? That kind of thing just drives me crazy. Of course, eventually he welcomed the news. I think we should all welcome the news, right? It's not just Ottawa taxpayers anymore, and apologies to people across Ontario who are after footing the bill for our disaster here in Ottawa, but I'm certainly glad it's not just us Ottawa taxpayers. And I'm just interested to see the scope, Rob, of the inquiry, right? We know this is what the majority of the people wanted. And you asked a question to Lowell earlier, why approve the launch when we just found out recently that, Manconi getting all this information saying that this looked like a bloody disaster from the beginning. So I'm interested to see who knew on council, if the mayor knew, if Manconi passed this on to anybody on council, and will heads roll? Well, who knows? I mean, we'll wait to see when the time comes that we're going to vote again in the municipal election. And for the love of God, everybody listening, please go out and vote. The turnout is always terrible, and that's not just Ottawa. It's terrible across the country when it comes to municipal elections. But no, I think we should all feel good about this, Rob. This is certainly welcome news. I know you probably feel the same way.
Yeah. That was my Snow and 60 commentary yesterday. Was that it was absolutely the right news. There are just too many unanswered questions now. You mentioned the Manconi email. There's the other email that was leaked by Bob Shirelli from Brian Guest. Who you're screwing with. Well, what the hell do you mean by that? So there are things there are blanks that need to be filled in here. So.
I mean, there's a sense of relief. And look, last night, we around 8 o'clock, I think it was, we had a train stopped again for over 30 minutes. Yeah. Something's got to be done. Someone's got to be held accountable. I have a feeling it's RTG and Alstom that's going to be held accountable at the end of the day. They just haven't done a good job. I mean, they've done an absolutely terrible job. And I know, a lot of people talk about it, and I certainly argued this near the beginning, that other, systems around the world have problems. We're not the only one that have problems, but I can't recall anyone in this day and age having these types of problems, shortly after launch. It's just unprecedented.
Right. 53 days. 53 days, okay. Yeah. And when did it come back into service? Monday?
Yeah.
Or Friday?
And we've already had issues.
Like a week. It's been up and running for a week or something like that. Yeah. Whatever it is, but twice this week trains have been stopped. So nevertheless. Okay, let's move along here.
All right.
I haven't really hit on this week because there's been so many other things going on, but the Ford government is going to allow pharmacies to test symptomatic COVID-19 patients for the first time. Maybe as soon as this week. Any pharmacy can do it in the province.
Well, what a great idea.
It sounds kind of nuts to me. Now they say, well, all the health officials have signed off on this, but if I'm in Shoppers Drug Mart, or my elderly parent or grandparent is in Shoppers Drug Mart picking up prescriptions or whatever, I don't know if I want them in there. It shouldn't be a testing facility.
Rob, I just had a family member go to get their flu shot, at a pharmacy. They're in the pharmacy, the flu shot. They're standing in line for the flu shot, and somebody wanders over and says, "Is this the COVID-19 testing line?" Okay?
Right.
I mean, everybody in line is absolutely in a panic. What is this person doing near me? The fact that you have both of those going on in a contained area, you've got people are going in with flu symptoms. People are going in with cold symptoms. People are picking up their prescriptions. As you just mentioned, you've got, I've got my elderly parents that have to go into the pharmacy on a fairly regular basis to pick up prescriptions. And now they're going to be contained in an area with people that have symptoms of COVID-19 and getting tested. It makes no sense. I listened to them yesterday on the news, the health officials saying, well, we're working with each pharmacy and, we've told them the type of protocols that should be in place. But you know what? Sometimes these pharmacies don't have enough room and we'll just have to have them deal with it. And where is the family doctor in all of this? The province at one point, they had these ads on TV that you can go to the clinic and you can go here and you look up for the pop-up clinic and go to your family doctor. I don't know anybody. I'm not sure if you do, Rob. I don't know anybody that was able to go to their family doctor and get the COVID-19 vaccine. I don't know anyone.
No, nobody comes to mind for me. So
isn't that probably one of the safer places to go? Where I don't know if you've been to your family doctor, but I mean you have.
Well, that's where that's where I would go to get vaccines. Pre-COVID.
It seems like the logical place to go.
Yeah, like shots that you would need for travel or whatever. I needed a tetanus booster a few years ago. I got them at my family doctor's office. So yeah. All right, that's our time because Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson is coming up next.
Oh boy, I'm going to listen to this. Have fun with them. Okay.
Yeah. No. It's always just about the ideas. Okay.
I know.
All right. That's coming up. Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson. Thank you, Derek. Bye-bye. Derek Fage from Rogers Television, host of Daytime Ottawa. The mayor next on City News.
So Rideau Rockcliffe Community Resource Centre has been around since 1982, and it's here to serve residents of Ward 13. So our focus is on helping to reduce poverty in this community, as well as empowering residents to find resilience within themselves. So one of the new focuses of our centre is around food programming. So you'll notice today when we go around on a little tour that we have a number of food programs here at the center. So one being obviously our emergency food program, which is really great. So residents can come and access food when they are in need. We also have a number of food-based social enterprises here at Rideau Rockcliffe as well. So one being the Ottawa Good Food Box, another being Market Mobile. One of our new initiatives that started this year as response to COVID is called Good Food on the Move, and it's a click and collect online store, and we have 7 pickup locations throughout the city. More sort of local here for Ward 13 residents, we've also started a free produce market as well. So community members can come on Wednesdays and Fridays and be able to access additional free fruits and vegetables.
Social Harvest Ottawa is one of the social enterprises here at the Rideau Rockcliffe Community Resource Centre. We operate this great urban greenhouse, and our work is not only to grow nutritious and delicious food, but also to nourish communities with community members here in Ward 13 and beyond. The greenhouse is a year-round project. We're a team of 4 employees working here. We have 2 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. We focus on growing microgreens from late fall to early spring and hothouse crops in the summertime, such as tomatoes and cucumbers.
The Mission Food Truck we're in our 5th week of collaborating with them to come visit our center, and we just got in on it at the right time. They were looking for new communities to branch out to. They said absolutely. Right now they're funded through donations. They travel around Ottawa and just give out delicious, fresh, hot food to people as well. We have at our center the Ottawa Good Food Box as well as the Market Mobile. So Ottawa Good Food Box has been around for 25 years and Market Mobile is a little younger, started in 2014. So they're both have the mission and the mandate of making fresh food more accessible and affordable in neighborhoods that lack access to a grocery store. So I think the greatest need that we've seen as a result of the pandemic in our community is people that we maybe have never needed to access our services before, right? So a lot of people have had, layoffs. Maybe they're just not able to work because they have to stay home with their children, over the summer, that sort of thing. So we've definitely seen the need go out, particularly for our food programming, as well as some of our counseling services as well. So it's a heavy time for people emotionally.
He's the opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
A lot of ground to cover with Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson. Good morning, Mayor Watson.
Hi, how are you, Rob?
Oh, hanging in there, Mayor Watson. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Just had a great Order of Ottawa ceremony the last 2 nights, honoring some distinguished Canadian Ottawans, and it was a beautiful service. So good. Nice to be on your show.
Yeah. So you've had a heck of a week.
It's been a busy week, that's for sure, yes.
Okay. Look, let's get into the decision to call a public inquiry that was made yesterday, announced yesterday by the province of Ontario. But it seems that one of the more contentious points between your position and your critics' position when it comes to light rail in Ottawa is P3s, public-private partnerships. RTM is the city's partner. It's private partner. How do you defend this public-private partnership given the poor performance of the city's partner?
Well, very simply, the P3 protects taxpayers. That's the bottom line. Any cost overruns, any delays come right out of the pockets of RTG and RTM and not the taxpayers. If this was run 100% by the city, all of the cost overruns for no service and failure to meet specific guidelines would be the responsibility of Ottawa taxpayers. So as you know, Rob, given the fact that for almost 2 full months there was no rail service, the consortium, the private sector consortium, has had to absorb literally tens of millions of dollars. And that's one of the ways we're paying for the no-charge service on all the months of December, where adult pass holders will save about $122. So the P3, while ideologically there's some people that don't like the private sector involved, the reality is that P3s do in fact protect the taxpayers first and foremost, and they're held accountable to that standard because they're not getting paid.
Do you think we've been well served? Do you think we've been well served by this P3? Some question, other P3s, the Lansdowne project as well, Mr. Mayor, for example.
Yeah, I think the Lansdowne project has been an excellent example of a P3 partnership, a true partnership between the private sector, people like the Red Blacks and the Atletico and so on. It's worked well. You have to remember what was at Lansdowne before. It was acre after acre of cruddy old asphalt and rundown buildings, and now we have 1,000 jobs on the site, property taxes being paid, and I think it's been a good example of a P3 that's worked well. The RTG, while the mechanics of it has worked well, the performance has not been. It's been completely substandard, and that's why we're continuing to meet and put pressure on the consortium to get their act together, first and foremost. And my number one priority, and I've said this on your show a number of times, is to get the trains back up and running on a consistent and safe basis. And that continues to be our objective, because I think one of the things you'll agree with me on, Rob, is that in the last couple of days when the trains, as of last Friday, started coming back, people on these, man and woman on the street interviews you see in the news were very happy to have the service back because they were completely unsatisfied with R1. But it showed that we made the right decision to build light rail. It's been far from our positive experiences for most of our riders, but we had a year and a half of 98.5% on-time service. That's a very high standard in the world of public transit. Our problem is we had 2 really bad situations in the fall of this year that shut the system down and frustrated people, myself included, to no end.
Okay. As you mentioned, if everything had been going according to plan, the city would be paying RTM as much as $5 million a month, right? That's $60 million a year. I would be curious to know how much the city has actually paid RTM this year. I assume the city hasn't been paying RTM since the first derailment. Is that fair?
No, they haven't. There hasn't been a nickel paid to them because they haven't provided any service.
So this is and won't be paid for the rest of the year, I assume, right? Probably until the end of the year, right?
No, but if they get 11 trains up and running by the end of this month, the beginning of next month,
okay,
and that's consistent, they'll be paid for performance. You only get paid under this agreement if you perform. And obviously for the 2 months or close to 2 months that we went through, they will receive $0 because there was zero service.
Right. But still, if it's 2 months, that's $10 million. That's $10 million. Okay?
That's correct.
But here's my point, Mr. Mayor. Here's my point, okay? This company is expecting revenue and it's not coming in because of its performance. I agree with you. Now, the last time we spoke, I expressed worry about the inflationary pressures coming out of the library and wondering what that meant for light rail construction. You told me, well, we're protected because we have a fixed price contract. Correct. So the taxpayers are protected, which is good.
Yeah.
But still, SNC Lavalin Transit Next, it's not protected from these rising costs. We may be protected, but it's not. So if the costs of building the library have gone up 65%, surely costs their way up to actually construct light rail. It needs all kinds of building materials, billions and billions of dollars, right? So aren't you worried that someday we might wake up and find RTG has gone bust or something, Mr. Mayor, because of all these cost pressures?
As you know, RTG is a consortium of a number of large multinational, national companies from around the world, whether it's Alstom or Ellis Dawn,
SNC,
SNC. They're large companies, and I can't predict if a company is going to go out of business, but these companies have massive infrastructure projects, that they're working on around the world, including here in Toronto and other parts of Canada. So they have lots of business. There's no question about that. The problem we've had is that they have clearly let down our passengers and let down our city because they have not performed to the expectation. Alstom has a very good track record around the world of providing good, solid, innovative trains, and we signed up with that consortium that had Alstom. Clearly, they have not lived up to their expectations. I speak with their CEOs on a fairly regular basis to tell them our frustration that they have to get their act together, that they have to get more qualified people in the maintenance facility. As you know, the last train issue that we had back in the fall was as a result of one person not tightening 12 bolts. Well, that's just sheer incompetence on the part of our partner. They have to get their act together, and they brought more people in. They brought better qualified people, and we are starting to see an improvement. We added another train yesterday. We'll add another train, I suspect, sometime next week till we get up to the 11 trains that we need for COVID service. Okay. And then as Alan Hubley, you may recall, Rob, 2 days ago at Transit, he put forward a motion that we'll have a fare freeze above and beyond the no charge in December. We'll freeze fares until RTG provides 15 trains for 1 month of no significant problems. And that will be some comfort to people who are asking for a fare freeze.
Our time is tight, and knowing you, your time is tight too. Emails obtained by CBC News indicate that John Manconi was concerned about the reliability issues of our light rail project before its launch. I'm going to read you a few quotes from this email. We can all agree things are not going well. August 8th, 2019. Quote, the reliability of the fleet is not where it needs to be to provide dependable service. Quote, the vehicles require attention repair more often than they should. But 2 weeks later, there's a picture of you holding up this big gold key to the light rail system, and it opened to the public a little more than a month later. Mr. Mayor, did you put political pressure on John Manconi to launch this system, despite his concerns about reliability, because it was already a year behind schedule?
Yeah, well, I think you answered that. The question is no, I didn't. There have been some speculation. Watson pushed to get this sped up because he wanted the federal Liberals to benefit from it during the federal election. Well, the very fact that we were 1 year late proved, A, we're not rushing the thing. Otherwise, it would have been done a lot sooner than a year late. And secondly, if you recall during the ceremony, the only two politicians that spoke were myself and Caroline Mulroney, because no federal politician was allowed to participate under federal election rules. So this notion that, I'm trying to help the federal Liberals, no, I probably, they're probably cursing me because they couldn't participate in the opening ceremony because they're in the midst of an election. And the other thing is, I think, from a Rush point of view, the reality is that we have an independent safety certifier. That individual had full responsibility to sign off on the safety of the system. That was signed off, then signed off by the city manager, and the system opened. And we had, as you know, within the first week or two, a number of challenges with the doors, with the braking system and the PA system. Eventually those issues were resolved, and as I said, we had about a year and a half of good service. Then we had the last 2 or 3 months from hell that was a dismal performance on the part of our partners, and we've held them to account by holding back millions and millions of dollars.
Okay. What sort of work did transit consultant Brian Guest do for you? If my memory serves, he was one of your advisors when you became mayor again in 2010. How should the public interpret a remark in an email when someone like Brian Guest says he would be getting screwed with if there was an inquiry into light rail?
Yeah, I have no idea what he meant by that. You'd have to ask him. But from our perspective, he helped me on my transition, and he did some initial work with the City of Ottawa that actually saved us a significant amount of money by rerouting the underground portion of the train system. But my office has never paid him a cent. He's never been formal or informal advisor. He did some work for the city, I think through Metrolinx, and he ended up doing some good work that ended up saving us a significant amount of money. But in terms of ongoing support, I was asked that question a number of times. You can check the record. All contracts and consulting contracts are publicly listed in the city website, and he's never been paid through my office budget at all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for answering all those questions this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks for taking the time to have me, and have a great weekend.
You too. Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson. The Friday Free-for-All Talkback Hour is coming up next. This is City News.
WW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 1011 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, November the 19th. Good morning. I'm Chris Curries. Right now in Ottawa, we've got some gusty winds, cloudy skies, 1 degree, some clouds, and 2 degrees in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Breaking news from Health Canada, who's approved Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine for kids, meaning campaigns to immunize some of the youngest Canadians will soon get underway.
5 to 11-year-olds given the green light for a lower dosage Pfizer shot. It's 10 micrograms versus 30 in the adult version, so a third of the size. Health Canada has approved a 2-dose series at a 21-day interval. However, each province will make the final decision on the time between doses. There has been some indication a longer gap, up to 8 weeks, may provide better protection. Canada has ordered 2.9 million child-sized Pfizer doses. They're now due to arrive imminently, and now that this approval has been given, the first shots likely going into arms by late next week. Alex Bloomfield, City News.
City News time is 11:01. Now, Ottawa Public Health says it's ready to go. They just need the supply. Here's our Alex Gouge with more.
OPH will expand the number of clinics from 4 to 7 and will open 73 after-hour pop-up clinics at local schools over a 4-week period. It's estimated 10,000 children per week will get vaccinated within that time frame. Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Vera Edges, explains what supports will be in place at the clinics to ensure vaccinations go smoothly.
Our nurses are trained also in comfort and distraction techniques. They will be able to assist parents in how children are held if they're younger, and in how to use these techniques. We also will have numbing spray, so to take away, the sensation of being given a needle.
The clinic information and hours will soon be available on OPH's website, while Edges says the appointments can soon be booked through the provincial portal. Alex Gouge, City News.
City News time, 10:02. Now, the Trudeau government set to make some changes to COVID testing rules at the border, which should make short trips to the U.S. a lot easier and cheaper. Our Parliament Hill reporter, Cormac McSweeney, tells us what we can expect.
The new rules are expected to kick into effect at the end of the month, and they'll partially do away with the current requirement that you need to show proof of a negative PCR test at the border to re-enter Canada. Those tests can cost up to $300. So for trips abroad that last less than 72 hours, fully vaxxed Canadians reportedly won't need that test anymore. However, all non-Canadians and for trips longer than 3 days, the test is still needed. Beth Potter with the Tourism Industry Association of Canada tells me it's a step in the right direction, but not good enough.
For fully vaccinated travelers coming into Canada, we need to see that PCR test go away for everyone.
However, Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health is urging caution if people are thinking of heading south of the border, saying you can still catch COVID even if you're fully vaxxed. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
Kamala Harris is about to become the first woman to serve as acting president of the United States. Later this morning, Joe Biden will be undergoing a routine physical and colonoscopy at Walter Reed Hospital, which he'll be put under for. During the procedure, the powers of the presidency will briefly be transferred to the vice president, as outlined in the Constitution. Later this afternoon, the White House will publicly release a written summary of President Biden's physical. And let's take a look at your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
For Ottawa, the Valley, and Smiths Falls today, it feels colder than the current temperature indicates, so you need some extra layers, some flurries possible, otherwise varying amounts of sun and cloud. The high near 3 degrees tonight, mainly clear, -5. And for the weekend, increasing cloud, flurries or showers in the evening Saturday, overnight into Sunday as well. Highs near 6 degrees. For today, the high near 3.
I'm Chris Curries. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
It's time to talk back
on the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Hey, it's the Friday free-for-all. Our favorite hour of the week around here. We don't come up with the topics. You come up with the topics. And we'll do our best to roll with it. We usually end up talking about things that have been in the news. But that's not carved in stone, okay? It doesn't have to be a big news story. Maybe you want to talk about something that you think should be in the news. Whatever it is, let's get into it, okay? It's been a very busy week. We have lots of material to work with. 750-1310. 750-1310. 613-750-1310. Oh, look, there's a call already. Here we go. Okay. Brian in Orleans. Good morning, Brian. You're on City News.
Yeah, morning, Rob.
Morning, Brian.
I mean, listening to you interview Mr. Watson, thank you for not letting him off the hook. But he reminds me of the guilty dog who just got caught picking turkey off the Thanksgiving table.
Oh, really? Okay. Why do you say that?
God, that guy can point fingers at everybody and anybody, but he really has to wear this. He really does, because he's been hiding stuff from council. He's been hiding stuff from the public. He's been trying to shut down any form of inquiry. I mean, why would you shut down an inquiry if you weren't guilty?
Okay, well, he would he would suggest, and I'm not here to defend the mayor, but he would suggest that an inquiry would take too long, cost too much money, and we have an auditor general, and this is just the sort of file that would make a good project for the auditor general.
Right.
That's what he would say.
General.
That's what he would say. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I know what he would say, but he fought too hard against this. There's something wrong.
Okay.
And when staff are complaining that they've been left out, cut off, okay, there's something smells in Denmark. It's rotten.
All right.
And, a public inquiry, sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Yes, I agree with that. And there's going to be a public inquiry. It just won't be not called by the city council. It's being called by the Ford government.
Well, there's a good reason for that, because city council isn't doing it. So.
Yep. All right, Brian. I know where you stand, sir.
Take care.
Thank you, sir. Yep. Good to hear from you. See, that's how we roll. Yeah. Robert in Ottawa. Robert, good morning, Robert. You're on City News.
Good morning.
Morning, Robert.
The inboard wheel bearings, if you look on the Transportation Safety Board report, on their website, check out the inboard wheel bearings. They don't have sensors, okay? That is the only way that we can be notified of catastrophic bearing failure.
Catastrophic failure.
We just have to listen for wheezing noises or, screeching noises like you played the other day on the radio.
Yes.
That's the sound of a bearing blowing apart. Okay, so these roller bearings are consistently failing. If you read the report, 17 bearing sets had to be readjusted. Okay, so it's prolific on the whole system, where all the wheel bearings are loose and they can't get their tolerances right, and it's sloppy. Okay, so the train is essentially.
Well, I wonder though, Robert. What do you think? Do you think it's a design? Flaw, or is it the result of a lax maintenance regime?
No, it's both. The maintenance guys are frustrated, so they're just doing the same things over and over and over again, and they're going insane, just like Einstein said they would. And the problem is that the politicians went to David Collinette, the transportation minister, in 2010, and they decided, we don't need these safety devices. We don't need bearing sensors because they cost too much money. So let's just get rid of all this silly, stupid federal level rail safety. We don't need that. Give us special permission.
Well, light rail is not regulated by Transport Canada.
So Collinette and the government of Canada gave Mayor Watson and his little gaggle of, boosters, they gave them special permission to build a shoddy system.
Well, I don't know what David Collinette had to do with anything, but
he gave them the permission.
Well, he was long gone by the time this came in.
They did that before they got the contract going. But what I'm trying to tell you here is that the problem is not going to go away, okay? And the problem is wheel bearings, okay?
Okay.
And we need the sensors. Federal level requires on all rail throughout Canada wheel bearing sensors.
Sure. Yeah, it's not a federally regulated railway, which is something new. Which is what we
have to be.
Okay, fine, Robert. Don't yell at me. I'm not in charge of light rail, Robert.
I'm not yelling at you. And you know what? You are a happier person since you got married. So I appreciate that you got married.
Okay, Robert. Thank you. Okay. I get married. It's like a royal freaking wedding.
He's right, though. You are happier.
I am happier.
You're
of course
nicer
I'm
to
happier.
me.
Of course. Okay. John Reddens is called in. He is such a fabulous advocate for users of Paratranspo. He is also with Transit Riders Ottawa Transit Riders. He's run for city council in the past. Morning, John.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm just doing.
Good to hear from you. It's been a while.
It has. It's been months that we've been hearing LRT.
Well, yeah, of course. Of course.
So I just wanted to bring some positive news for paratransport users. We finally got a change as officially yesterday that in the past we've been only allowed to book 4 trips a day. Now they expanded that to unlimited. So
that's good. Okay, all right.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
About the light rail issue has taken up a lot of the Transit Commission time too.
Of course.
So
yeah.
we're demanding that. Well, how many billions, millions into the budget that paratransport doesn't have an equal say at the Transit Commission meetings, and so we're trying to push that on the agenda. And it's unfortunate that this past week it wasn't on the agenda when we were demanding that last month. And the fact now that LRT is the issue, we seem to be forgotten about. So that's one of the avenues too. But the mayor's comment about reliability.
Yes.
For 18 months, we've had almost empty trains. How could you have breakdowns when you have nobody on the train? So the fact is that of course you're gonna have lesser breakdowns. We had lesser breakdowns when we. Well,
he said 98. John, he said 98% reliability during that period.
Yeah, during COVID.
During COVID, yeah.
Yeah, but there's nobody going downtown. So there's a thing there.
Yeah, well, whether there are passengers on it or passengers not on it, I don't know how that impacts reliability. For example, during the first derailment, there was nobody on the train when it derailed the first time. So
yeah, that's right. And last night there was a breakdown and 50 people were on it, and they were on there for sitting in the tunnel for an hour.
That's right.
To get it.
Yeah, half an hour, something like that. Yeah. Right where David, it was right where that screeching noise was heard. That
it was right in that same area between those two stations. Yes.
They said they're going to replace the track, right? Yeah. Okay. It's interesting. All right, John, got to jump. Keep up the good work, buddy. Thank you. Yeah, he never, ever stops advocating for users of paratransport, the forgotten users of paratransport in the city. Manotick. Russell is in Manotick. Good morning, Russell.
Good morning, Rob. A long-time listener, first-time caller.
Appreciate it, sir.
I noticed a while back that Doug Ford won his Supreme Court ruling about the size of Toronto City Council.
Yeah.
I wish he'd bring that to Ottawa.
Oh, you think we should cut the number of city councilors?
Oh, this is the most divisive, dysfunctional city council we've ever seen.
Well, is that because there are too many of them?
There's too many, and there's extremists on one side and too many on the other side.
Right. Okay. Well, how do you even go about doing that? You would need Ford to do it because there's no way the city council is going to vote to cut itself, right? So
Ford should implement it here. Just get on and get it done.
Well, I mean, does it make a lot of sense? Like, let's say the city of Toronto, that's governed by the council, is... What would be the population there? 4 million? Say 4 million. Let's say 4 million. Just spitballing here. They have pretty much the same size council that we have here in the city of Ottawa.
Well, when he cut the city council down there, the train still ran. They still did fresh water, still had sewers working.
Yeah.
Everything worked. Nothing fell apart. Nothing.
Yeah. I guess my only issue with cutting the size of the council is the ability for residents to get their local issues addressed. To me, it's kind of it's like another form of amalgamation, and I don't think people have been well served by amalgamation. I think they're paying more and getting less because of amalgamation, and I'm not so sure that cutting the size of city councilors is necessarily a good idea. But I'm open to being convinced that it is.
Well, we have 4 city councilors downtown Ottawa.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah. Do we need, for example, if you think Kitchissippi Ward, right? Kitchissippi, Somerset Ward, Capital Ward, Rideau Vanier Ward. Do we need that entire kind of downtown core? Do we need to have all those city councilors? When you have like Nepean, councilor, what's that called? College Ward, right? It's like 100,000 people in College Ward.
Yeah, and for most part of City of Ottawa, it's farmland. You go to Goulburn.
Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It's the biggest part of Ottawa.
But again, and represented by one person, right? Like Scott Moffat, for example.
And
like when
George?
Scott Moffat is elected, what Scott Moffat once told me, and if he's listening right now, I'd love to be corrected on this. Like he is representing as a city councilor an area that pre-amalgamation used to be represented by something like 23 different municipal politicians.
Yeah, like I said.
But you know, when you took in all the former reeves and councils and mayors and councils and everything pre-amalgamation, kind of crazy, right?
And they were run quite efficiently.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Russell. Thank you. We're going to stop here, and we'll be right back. There are 1, 2, 3 lines available. It's a Friday free for all. We can get into whatever you want to get into. I'm open to just about anything. It's the Rob Snow Show. City News.
Papa Jack was started 14 years ago, really by accident more than anything. A friend of mine had bought a grocery store. A popcorn machine was in there. He didn't want it. I ended up by buying it. My family thought I was nuts. When I first said, come and pick up this popcorn machine, my son said, what the heck for? I won't use exact words. But anyway, we started, and it just kept on growing and growing. But at the time, I was the only one selling popcorn in Ottawa. But we persevered as a family, and here we are. So it's been very, very rewarding for my family and myself. And to see our brand name, Papa Jack, and Papa Jack came out of, I wanted something that was going to be very bilingual. So Papa, and then in Ontario, everybody called me Jack, even though my name is Jacques. In Quebec, it's fine, it's Jacques, but in Ontario, it was always Jack. So we married the two together, Papa, Jack. With the store that we have on Thurston Drive, it basically, the factory's in the back. If you come into the store, you can see how the popcorn is being made during the week. So it adds an extra layer of, you can see the sanitation, you can see how we do it. It's not like making popcorn. Most people thought when I started this, I was making popcorn in my garage or in my basement. No, never did. It was started in this building, in the back of the building, and then we kept growing and growing until what we have now. My daughter and my son came up with a brilliant idea to do a fundraiser online. So basically all people have to do is to register here, and we give them a special code number. And with that code number, they tell their friends or their neighbors, everybody, to buy online from us with that code number. And then at the end of each period, could be 2 weeks, could be a month, then we'll pay them a 20% of all the businesses that we got through that code number. One thing I'd like to say is thank you to all the Ottawa people who have supported us and support local businesses. Sometimes people, you know, they talk about buying locally. Now it becomes that much more important to buy locally, to support your local businesses, because not too many of them are going to survive this. We're fortunate that we're so far so good.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
All right, David has been dutifully fact-checking me. Thanks for that, Dave.
Somebody's got to.
Yeah. College Ward. 53,000 residents. What did I say? 100,000? Okay, so I was only off by 47,000 or so. Okay.
50%.
Right. Okay. I don't know, man. I thought it was more than that.
It's because you're thinking of the old city of Nepean, which is split between 3 different wards.
Yeah, no, that's not what I was thinking. But
anyway.
I was just wrong, I guess.
I guess so.
I'm getting old. I'm getting gray.
From time to time,
it's the way it goes.
Yeah.
It's the way it goes. Doug is calling from Nova Scotia. Doug is calling all the way from Nova Scotia. What part of Nova Scotia?
Well, I'm originally from the Glasgow area, but I live in Halifax now.
Oh, in Halifax. Okay. In the big city, in the big booming city. Halifax, Nova Scotia, red hot, booming now.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rob, last week you were talking about pit bulls.
Yes, I was, yeah.
And I just had, there was a UV from Cape Breton. You might have heard this story. There was a lady outside of Halifax in Muscatawbin, and she had 2 pit bulls. And that lady, they were like her family, her kids. She's all by herself, not married. She wasn't married or anything. And one dog she did have issues with one dog. But anyway, she took the good dog for the walk this day, apparently this good dog, and mauled her to death. And
she was the owner, mauled the owner to death.
They mauled her, yeah. She was the owner. She raised those dogs and like they're her own. And that dog mauled her to death. And then a neighbor came by and they went looking for the dog, and he actually ended up running the dog down because he didn't want, because this is a rural area, and you get kids walking around and people walking, and they didn't want that dog to attack anybody else. And of course, the media, not the media, but the residents, or not the residents, but people in general, they wanted to hang that man for running that dog down. I mean, he ended up killing the dog.
Right. They're more mad at the person who killed the dog than the dog who killed the woman.
Yeah, their own dog.
It's like that all the time. It's like that all the time. Yeah.
It is the breed. I don't care what they say. I think stats said, I don't know if it's correct or not, they're about 3% of the dog breeds in the world, and they're responsible for like 60% of vicious attacks. So it's a dog.
All right.
Anyway, that's all I had to say.
Well, thank you, Doug. It's nice to hear from the East Coast. Thank you, Doug. Yep. Bye-bye. Yep. I'll tell. Halifax is booming, by the way. All the capital cities in Atlantic Canada. Charlottetown is crazy. We were in Charlottetown this summer. They can't build houses fast enough in Charlottetown. Scott in Orleans. Scott, good morning, Scott.
Good morning, Rob.
Yep.
Just want to my comment on the province calling the inquiry for the light rail. To me personally, it goes back to even Orga World. To that contract that was signed back then.
That was a lemon of a contract, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And when it came to light that how poorly that contract was written and where those numbers were pulled from, there was absolute zero accountability at the city level. And I believe it was Steve Kanlakos at the time, if I'm wrong, I stand corrected. But he essentially at the time had said, I did not need to get involved because I knew it was.
No. Your history's a little off there because Steve Kanlakos wasn't the city manager at the time. The city manager was Kent Kirkpatrick.
Kent Kirkpatrick.
And Kent was sick, right? He had serious health problems, and in the end, he apologized for that.
But I stand corrected. It was, right. But at the end of the day, he felt that, and there was, I believe, him saying that he didn't feel that he needed to get involved in the largest contract at the time because he felt it was in good hands. And really, even those people whose hands were in, I don't believe there's any accountability held there. So, and at the time, that was the biggest contract signed, which was numbers were pulled from pie in the sky. And then we hear...
And not just that, Scott, if I could just interrupt and remind people about a little bit about that contract. When the auditor went fishing... asking for it. Documents were destroyed. Okay, they had shredders working overtime. People left the city of Ottawa altogether. In other words, they quit before they would have been fired. They hid the staff. There were staff. If I had Maria McRae on, because I remember she was the River Ward councillor at the time, said staff lied to us. They lied to us. It was a huge scandal at the time.
It was absolutely, and really it kind of went away quietly. And then here we are today where we're looking at numbers in a budget based on 80% or 82% ridership. There's no proof that's even going to happen. And the reason why they're using that is because there may be cuts. Well, what if ridership is 42%? What's the realistic number, and what's 82% based on? It sounds like it's a pie-in-the-sky number again. So where's the accountability again? What's going to happen when we find out that all these numbers are pie in the sky, and all these LRT contracts that were signed blindly, asked to sign blindly by councillors? You can't look at it, just sign it. Trust us. It's in good hands.
Yeah. Well,
so we do need this judicial inquiry.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Org World. Holy cow. There's another one. I did quite a few shows on that one, too. Laura in Winchester. Good morning. You're on City News.
Well, good morning, Rob. How are you today?
Oh, we're good. How are things in the Deep South?
Well, I'm looking at a beautiful day outside.
Good.
Cold, but
Yeah.
I'm inside, and
that's
it's
good.
cold outside, so I'm good.
It says you want to talk about health care.
Yes, Rob. I'm a diabetic, and I have a pre-existing condition. I tried to buy myself health insurance. Nobody would touch me.
Really?
Nobody.
Yeah.
I'm self-employed. As a result of COVID, I went out and I'm using skills that I've had for years, self-employed. Couldn't even buy a self-employed plan.
Wow.
Because I have a pre-existing condition.
Really?
Rob, my issue about this, and I know I'm not alone in this. I know I'm not alone in this fight. A lot of people, as a result of COVID, have gone out on their own. And for those who have just done it, if you were employed by someone, you have 60 days in which to convert any insurance policy that you might have had with your previous employer. I missed my 60-day mark. So as a result, if you have a pre-existing condition, a lot of the insurance companies, the large ones, don't want to touch you.
At any price? At any price, Laura? Or
At any price.
really?
What they're using as the marker is the price of the drugs that you take.
Yeah.
Now, you cannot afford the cost of the drugs are price prohibitive for you to go out and buy it by
That's
yourself.
right.
Hence the reason you're looking for assistance.
Yes.
And here you have the insurance companies that are saying, we don't want
Denying
to
you coverage.
because-"
They're denying you
Yeah,
coverage because of a pre-existing condition. Wow.
Exactly. Now, my question is, we're supposed to be a forward-thinking country. We go around the world telling people how great we are.
Oh, Canadian healthcare is the greatest. Canadian
Well,
healthcare is the greatest system in the world. Yeah.
Of course. How could you miss that? But here we have a segment of the population. This is happening to seniors. It's happening to people who are self-employed. People with pre-existing conditions cannot get health care
what?
coverage,
You know what?
and you cannot afford the drugs.
Laura, hang on the line. I want David to take your number because we're going to follow up on that. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Yeah, I think, Laura can't be alone in facing that circumstance. So hang on there, Laura. Halftime talkback hour, busy one today. Grab a line, and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about on City News.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, November the 19th. Good morning. I'm Chris Curries. Right now in Ottawa, 2 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it's 3. Here's what's making news this hour. The approval is here from Health Canada on a kid-sized COVID-19 vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds. Ottawa Public Health says they are ready to immunize elementary-age children, getting clinics set up for after-school hours across the city. While a reminder from CHEO that if your child has special medical, developmental, or behavioral needs, you can register for an appointment with them now. An increase of 793 confirmed new COVID-19 cases. That's in the latest report from the province. That includes 4 new deaths, 31 new cases in Ottawa, 14 in Eastern Ontario, 2 in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, and 6 in Renfrew County. Ottawa's mayor denying any political pressure was put to open the Confederation line in 2019. Jim Watson defending the public-private partnership P3 model right here on live on City News, and denies that his office put any political pressure on officials to launch the light rail system, despite ongoing reliability issues in the final stages of testing. And here's an idea for the city of Ottawa. Some fun names are on snowplows in Vermont. Students participated in the State Transportation Department's Name a Plow contest to come up with names for the snowplows serving their communities. Couple names include Plowy McPlowface, Steve, Captain Snowpants, Yo Bro, and Jennifer Snowpez. City News Time, 10:32. I'm Chris Curries. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
It's time to talk back
On the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
I apologize for being late. I bumped into the boss and I was showing her. We do what's called guess the selling price in the real estate section of the Globe and Mail, which is in every Friday's Globe and Mail. So get a load of this one, David. Okay?
Oh, boy.
This is unbelievable.
Here we go again.
Freehold townhome. It's in Toronto.
Okay.
And it says a 5-minute walk from the subway in Bloor Street. Okay, so it's fairly central,
it's a
right?
good spot.
Okay, 14 St. Raymond Heights in Toronto. And this was built in 2003. So an 18-year-old townhome. It sold in 2003 when it was brand new for $375,000.
Sure, new build.
Okay, brand new house.
Okay.
Then it sold 5 years later in 2008 for $538,000.
Some good ROI.
5 years later. Okay.
Appreciation.
Then it sold in 2017, another 9 years later, for $625,000.
Okay.
2017, 4 years ago.
Right.
4 years ago. It was listed. It's a townhouse. It's like it's a row of 11 townhouses.
It's attached to 2 other houses. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A 3-story townhouse in the middle of a row of 11 homes. It was listed for $1.249 million and sold for $1,475,000.
Oh my gosh.
And it was on the market for 2 days.
2 days. I don't even want to see it. What's your highest price?
I mean, it's a nice, but it's probably like 100,000 other townhomes in Toronto.
Not a corner lot.
Oh, it's in the middle. 11 townhomes. Right? So
I hope it has nice neighbors.
$1,475,000 in 2021 for a townhouse that, when it was brand new, was $375,000 in 2003. That is a crazy real estate market. That is the insanity of Toronto housing right there. Steve in Canada. Good morning, Steve. You're on City News.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
I'm never living in Toronto, apparently.
I used to live there. And I can tell you, it's not going to get any cheaper.
No.
But on that note, just really quick, my son bought a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. He closed yesterday, $460 here in Canada. So it's not. I mean, that's Canada and a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. So I don't know how big that one is, but I don't think Ottawa is that much better right now. We've been shooting through the roof as well.
Yeah.
I want to make one quick point and then a comment about amalgamation. I got my propane fill-up bill. I'm no longer in Canada, actually. You don't know that, but I'm out just outside the city lines, 100 meters. Best decision I ever made.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Literally 100 meters. And I get my bill, and it says carbon tax underneath the propane fee. And then there's HST on top of all of it. So I'm like, there's another tax on a tax. Beautiful,
on tax.
right? Yeah. So there's amalgamation. So, a long time ago, we had MPs and MPPs, and they didn't overlap. And now, after they set the federal boundaries, the provincial ones follow suit.
That's right.
And overlap. So you have one MP, one MPP, so they can get things done for their community.
Yeah.
Why don't they follow that model and just have a councillor overlap with the federal jurisdiction? They control about 100, 120,000 people. Yeah. So we'd have 10 or 15, maybe 10 or 12 councillors in Ottawa.
So you cut the council in half.
Well, I know, but when you said the thing is getting things done for the community, right? You were commenting earlier on the conversation that you're worried that people aren't going to get their services. They're not all directly from the councilor. Like, they have staff.
Of course they have staff. But assuming you're cutting the staff in half too, right? You'll need half as many staff, right?
Well, give them a bigger budget so they can hire more staff.
Okay.
You need one counselor for the region, but let them have 10, 12 staff to go do the work instead of 3 or 4, right? You're not paying the counselor's salary and pension and who knows what else they get.
But to what end, though, Steve? To what end, though?
Well, to the end that you're not.
Like, if we're talking about savings, like, how much are you going to save if we did like $2 million on a $4 billion budget or something?
It's not a savings on the salaries. To me, where the savings come in is that you're not going to have 2 counselors. Let's say you get one lefty and one righty, and they're trying to work with 2, conservative, let's say MPPs, or 2 liberal MPPs, or MP and MPPs. And they're just trying to get things done. But if a community is relatively conservative or relatively liberal or whatever, they will all come together and pass their legislation. So they all take their 3 levels of government, will put their money in, they'll go fight for their community to get their bike lanes, or they'll say remove the bike lane, whatever, depending on your political view. But they can all do it together, and 3 guys or girls can sit down and get things done better than 2 guys, one federal liberal, one provincial conservative, and then 2 or 3 councillors that overlap. And it's not even their whole ward. It's like a corner of their ward, and now they have a say. Right? I think the efficiency of getting things done is where the benefit lies.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Good to hear from you. Yep. Brendan in Blackburn Hamlet. Good morning. You're on City News.
Good morning.
Morning. What's on your mind, Brendan?
Drugstores. My drugstore is so small.
Mm-hmm.
How can you expect anyone to go in there and stand in line waiting for vaccinations?
Okay. Well, I'm not really worried about people getting vaccinated. It's I question the wisdom, Brendan, of people going in there and they're symptomatic. They already have the symptoms of COVID-19. And they're in their local pharmacy to get a test. They're in there to get a test.
It's very dangerous. I'm over 80 years old.
Yes.
Ain't going nowhere.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Brendan. Thank you for your call, sir. We have lots of lines available there at 750-1310, 750-1310. Your last chance to have at us for the week. It's the Friday free-for-all, so whatever is on your mind. We'll do our best to roll with it. Biggest local story remains LRT and public inquiry. As I mentioned earlier in the program, we've been talking about light rail, debating light rail, doing news stories about light rail as long as I've been doing talk radio in Ottawa. I am now on the other side of 20 years in this business, and I would say that for almost that entire time, we have been talking about some sort of rail transit here in Ottawa to ultimately replace what served us traditionally, which was bus rapid transit. There was the Bob Chiarelli plan. Bob was mayor from 01 to 06, post-amalgamation years. He was regional chair before that. And the cost of that line now I mean, it looks like a relative bargain. It was $800 million. Again, in, early $2,000, $800 million. Okay. And it would have run from Barrhaven to the University of Ottawa, North-South Light Rail. North-South, $778 million contract with Siemens, I believe it was at the time. Ancient history now. You remember there was an election. And Larry O'Brien won the election in 2006. And canceling Bob Chiarelli's North-South Light Rail project was a big part of that municipal election campaign. That and property taxes zero means zero. Right? So it was hitting the reset button. We're going to hit the reset button on light rail. And go back to the drawing board, and lawsuits were launched, and lawsuits had to be settled, and the new city council came up with a brand new plan. Not north-south. We're going to go east-west, and Larry told me the last time he was on the radio, just whatever that was, 6 weeks ago or whatever. Every trip on a world-class transit system starts with a trip down an escalator, is what he used to say. So we came up with this idea to have a tunnel into the downtown core. We pressed the reset button. That's how it was spun in the mayor's office. I know people who worked in that mayor's office. And like Walter Robinson was on our show Monday morning. He was in that mayor's office. And they will maintain today, and they will take it to their graves, I guess, that the plan from Chiarelli was not going to work for Ottawa. And that this would work for Ottawa. But the mayoralty of Larry O'Brien was tumultuous, to say the least. Gosh, I don't want to get too off track here, but we had a wicked winter bus strike. Like, I will never forget that.
I'll never forget that. I was just a kid.
I broke the news that the strike was over. I broke that story. After 51 days. It was a hard winter, that winter. Oh, that was a traditional, cold, snowy Ottawa winter. And I am convinced to this day that it wasn't just the ATU. The ATU may have been on strike. I am sure there was some kind of unofficial work to rule campaign by the other road maintenance unionized workers at the city, because it was the worst plowing job I'd ever seen in the city of Ottawa. And I will never forget the head of the ATU at the time. He's passed away since. Cornelier. Andre Cornelier, I believe his name was. He was asked during a radio interview, the first morning of the strike, don't you feel like you're holding the city hostage? And I'll never forget it. He said, quite matter-of-factly, that's exactly what we're doing. Yeah, we're holding the city hostage. We're holding the city hostage. He admitted it. Right on the radio. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're holding the city hostage. And at that time, David, my boss had me doing radio commentaries like I do today with the Snow in 60 commentaries, only they weren't Snow in 60. And during the bus strike, some of them were like Billy Graham sermons, for crying out loud. He always used to complain. Boss always used, these things are way too long, okay? Rob, when you do a commentary, it can't be 9 minutes long, okay? But during the entirety, almost in the entirety of the bus strike, when I would do my daily commentary, I wouldn't call them bus drivers. I always called them hostage takers.
Hostage takers, yeah.
I said, I would go on the radio and it is day 23 of the hostage taking.
And that's how it felt at the time.
The hostage takers' demands have not changed. And I had such contempt for them. Yeah. I would say, I hope they freeze on the picket line. It was a crazy time, I'll tell you. It was a crazy time. And if I ever write a memoir, this is going to be one of the stories in it, okay? I'm at the radio station, and I'm working in the newsroom, getting ready for the show. And the receptionist calls the newsroom. Rob, there are two, It's during the bus strike. There are 2 large gentlemen down here to see you.
Oh, boy.
Right? I said, okay, I'll be right down. And these 2 guys, bus drivers for OC Transpo, and they're built like they should be a tag team in WWE. Built like brick you-know-whats. Both of them well over 6 feet tall. Well over 200 pounds. And they said to me, Rob, we don't like the way that you're talking about us on the radio. So you have to stop calling us hostage takers. We have families to feed and all of this stuff. And we get into this mini argument in the lobby of the radio station. And I said, if you don't want to be called hostage takers anymore, you should get back to work because you've paralyzed the city. It never got more heated than that, and they thanked me for coming down and talking to them. In fact, I think they were even... But I will go to my grave thinking, Mr. Cornelier sent those people to intimidate me. Crazy stories, crazy days, talk radio in Ottawa. And I'm way off track now. Light rail, history, 20 years. The O'Brien plan for light rail. John Baird had a role in that, too, because he withheld the federal government share of the funding for the Shirelli North-South project. He pulled the funding commitment on behalf of the federal government, which essentially killed the project, right? And then you throw into the mix the fact that the mayor of Ottawa was put on trial after being accused of influence peddling. The Terry Kilray stuff, acquitted on every charge. But then we had another election. In 2010, Jim Watson won that election, and he's been there ever since. And this is the project that he inherited, right? You could call it the O'Brien-Watson project if you wanted to call it something. 20 years, and what do we have? Where are we at? We have 20 years later, 12 kilometers of track, a tunnel that's 3 kilometers long, and 8 trains. After 20 years. And now it's all going to be in the news for years and years to come because we're having a public inquiry. It's like Ottawa's never-ending story is light rail. Have we taken a commercial break? Are we supposed to take it? We're supposed to take a commercial break. Sorry, everyone. I got carried away. It's my last rant of the week. I promise I'll fit every call in when we come back. Rob Snow Show, City News.
This affected us big time because when, you know how we are seasoned. We have clothes for the spring, clothes for the winter. At that time, lots of clothes didn't arrive on time from Europe or from here because some factory shut down. So, and this put us in an odd position. We received not all the merchandise, part of the merchandise. And for us, we have to be careful, you know, especially with the virus going on. Did affect the business, of course, like everybody else. We're not immune, and since the government helped, you know, this did a little bit good for us too, but still affected all the sectors, especially clothing. You know, you can see big corporation affected bad because nobody was thought it's gonna be like this. You know, earthquake might happen, we joke about it before, things might happen, but this was like a third war, but with a virus. So how to survive, that's the question, and we're doing our best to work with the mall, especially rent in a mall is very high. The government, they have certain, let's say, condition, like how many people will be in the mall or in the stores, etc. Yeah, it's a big factor, but of course, if my store has a back doors, or just it will be much better. At least we can have curbside much easy, because we have to shut down completely, you know. And this left a mark on us, on everybody too. People always ask me, go online. Certain things you can't go online. Let's say T-shirt, certain product people don't know how to fit, but when come to clothing. Like it's different completely. Let's say I have a customer comes, you can give him 44, but certain suit he might take 42, certain suit he might take 46. So, and how could, I mean, suit is not gonna fit the same. And I see people come back and they show me what they got online and not the same fabric, mostly young people, but if you really want to shop, you have to go to the store because everything will be around you. You want to be sure the color look good, the fit will look good, especially when you spend, doesn't matter how much money, whether 300 or 2,000, you know? You have to try, you have to see what's going on. Please don't be shy, contact us. It will be a pleasure for me to take a suit or coat or anything. Like sometimes people have a funeral, or they have things, they have a wedding, they don't want to come to the mall. If I get all the information, I will go and meet them at their home or their business offices. I'm gonna start doing that, you know, and this will help the business and help the people. Like they're afraid to come to the mall for time being, or they're too busy at work. They cannot go anywhere at a certain time, so I'm glad to do that.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
Claude and Arlene's. Good morning. You're on City News.
Good morning, sir. How
Good morning.
are you doing?
Oh, hanging in there, buddy. Yeah.
Okay, regarding OC Transpo, when I was working, I worked at the headquarters of a large Crown corporation, and I took public transit every single day for 3 reasons. It was cheaper, it was more reliable, and it was more convenient than driving to work. And probably 80% of the time, it was faster than driving to work. Now, it's none of those things. So how they're going to get back to 80% ridership, I really don't know.
Yeah, and throw in a deadly infectious disease for good measure, Claude. Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, regarding the mayor's statement that it was 98% uptime, whatever.
98% on time. Yeah, reliability.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, when I was doing a bit of research while I was waiting, and the Ottawa airport has 54,000 flights a year, so that works out to about 150 a day. So at 98% efficiency, we'd be getting 3 plane crashes a day.
Okay.
How do you think people would react to that?
Probably not. Well, that's one way to look at it, I suppose.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, you think, you know, if the space program had 98% efficiency, you know?
Yeah, okay.
It's crazy.
All right, okay. All right, Claude. Rick in Canada, you're on City News. Rick from Orleans to Canada. Here we go.
Yeah, Rob, regarding the 2006 mayor election.
Yeah.
And at that time, Larry O'Brien, about 4 months leading up to the election, said, look, if I win, I'm going to have to cancel that Barrhaven light rail contract. So don't sign it, Bob Shirley, because I'm going to go with what the Ottawa citizens want. Those are the people that are paying the bills, and in a democratic government, the majority wins, and they want east-west done first if we're going to tackle light rail at all.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob kept his nose stuck in the air, Bob Shirley, and said, no, I'm going to sign it anyways. And he went ahead and he signed it, and he lost the election. He only got 15.56%, and Larry O'Brien got 47.08%, so it wasn't even close. And thanks to Bob Shirley, we had to foot a bill for $30 million. So if he wants to run this time round, he needs to cut a check to the citizens of Ottawa for $30 million first.
You hold him personally responsible, do you? Okay.
Oh, yeah, of course, because he didn't have to sign that.
Okay.
He didn't have to sign that contract. He could have waited, and if everybody voted to say, you're right, we've got to do what the citizens of Ottawa want and go with the east-west first to get the buses out of the center of town.
Yeah.
That's what we should do in a properly functioning democracy.
Well, yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice if 20 years later we had a properly functioning light rail system.
Exactly.
And I don't know if you were one of the 48% or so who voted for Larry O'Brien, but
sure was.
This is the Larry O'Brien Jim Watson project that we have right now.
Unfortunately, and here we are. Jim Watson saying he's not happy about not being consulted by Ford before the announcement of this committee. Or judicial review, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, wait a second, Jim. There's a lot of times you're not consulting the City of Ottawa taxpayers either. You're running the city like you own the city. And so why should you expect any different?
All right, Rick, thank you. Lori, you're on City. You're calling from Barrie, is that right, Lori?
Yes, sir.
Barrie, okay, all right. What's up?
Well, I was just actually telling David that I'm here for a hockey tournament with my daughter, and I was driving her last night and reminiscing because it's the first one we've had in a while.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice, yeah.
When I took my son to one 6 years ago this week, it was November 15th, and as we were driving, we were listening to you on CFRA, and the Paris attacks were unfolding.
Oh, really?
And,
wow.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've been listening to you for years, and that memory came to me last night, and I thought, I'm going to call in the free-for-all tomorrow and tell Rob, I'm still listening and still love you. I miss those afternoon quiz shows.
Oh, the news quiz. Yeah. I was thinking about it might bring back a news quiz, actually. I missed the news quiz.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to say was I just love the way you worded those questions to Mayor Watson, the last two questions.
Okay.
They were succinct, on point, respectful, but they were, very pointed, and I thought they were well crafted. So,
well, thank you. That'll be up on our social media sites and on our website as well at ottawa.citynews.ca. If people that didn't miss that, I thought it was tough but fair, and that's what you get.
Absolutely, you're a pro.
Well, thank you, Lori. That's very kind of you, and I hope your daughter does well in the hockey tournament.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling. Yeah, isn't that kind? Very kind. David, last call of the week, buddy. Hi, David.
I'm just calling because, I was sort of triggered by the LRT, but it was more when you were talking about the bus strike of, was it 2008?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's when I started listening to you sort of full bore, your late afternoon show.
Yeah.
Because everybody wanted to get updates on everything that was going on. But I just sort of, it's on the subject of the mayor and a lot of things sort of seemingly in secrecy and not getting sort of full reports on things. Do you remember like pre-strike 2008, every 3-4 years, the bus driver's contract would be up for renewal, and there's always a threat of a strike, a threat of a one-day walkout.
They did go on strike one time a few years previous to that, right? Or 10 years before that, I think.
But at least every 4 years you'd hear OC Transport drivers ratify an agreement, and they'll be getting this, they'll be getting that. We would always hear about it. I've noticed since that last strike in 2008, we have not heard.
Oh no! And the last contract was very generous. Yeah, very generous.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything like every 4 years about a contract telling me what they're getting, which leads me to believe that the mayor is simply handing them whatever they want, and there's no negotiations going on or any accountability as to if that's warranted or not.
Well, the mayor's position on this, I think, has been pretty clear. That he understands the people of Ottawa will not tolerate another bus strike like the one that we went through that year.
Yeah.
Just can't have it again.
In other words, they'll be getting whatever they ask for.
Well, the last one, it's not hard to find if you do a news search for the last collective agreement ratified by ATU Local 279. Believe you me, thank you, David, for your call. Is very generous. Very generous. 10:59. That's it for the Talkback Hour. For all of this week, we'll do it again on Monday, as we usually do right after the 10 o'clock news. Bruce, right? Our buddy Bruce McIntyre from Up the Line with the Eganville Leader in Valley View right after the news on City News.
This is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 101.1 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News. Now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, November the 19th. Good morning. I'm Chris Curries. Right now in Ottawa, we're looking at some mostly cloudy skies, 2 degrees. We do have some gusty winds. In Smiths Falls, it's 3 degrees. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Health Canada has officially given the green light to Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine for kids.
The lower dosage Pfizer shot, now approved for 5 to 11-year-olds. It's basically a third of what the adult dosage is.
After a thorough and independent scientific review of the evidence, the department has determined that the benefits of the vaccine outweigh the potential risks in this younger age group.
Health Canada saying its effectiveness in preventing COVID infection was around 90% in 5 to 11-year-olds. That's similar to the 12 to 25 age category with the adult shot. The approved interval is 21 days. Canada has ordered 2.9 million child-sized Pfizer doses. They are due to arrive imminently now that this approval has been given. Again, the first shot's likely not going to go into arms until late next week. Alex Bloomfield, City News.
So here's the plan for Ottawa Public Health's rollout. And with that, here's Alex Gouge.
OPH will expand the number of clinics from 4 to 7 and will open 73 after-hour pop-up clinics at local schools over a 4-week period. It's estimated 10,000 children per week will get vaccinated within that time frame. Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Vera Edges, explains what supports will be in place at the clinics to ensure vaccinations go smoothly.
Our nurses are trained also in comfort and distraction techniques. They will be able to assist parents in how children are held if they're younger, and in how to use these techniques. We also will have numbing spray, so to take away, the sensation of being given a needle.
The clinic information and hours will soon be available on OPH's website, while Edges says the appointments can soon be booked through the provincial portal. Alex Gouge, City News.
City News time is 11:03. Changes coming to the COVID testing requirements at the border. The federal government set to make an announcement today, and it's expected to make travel easier for Canadians taking short trips abroad. Our Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney tells us what we can expect.
Currently, if you leave the country, you need proof of a recent negative PCR test to get back into the country. But today, the Trudeau government is expected to announce that beginning at the end of the month, those tests will no longer be needed for fully vaccinated Canadians who take trips abroad for less than 72 hours. Testing would still be required if you're not a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, or if the trip is longer than 3 days. But Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Kieran Moore, is still urging caution.
If anyone's going across the border, please do a risk assessment. Make sure that you're taking all appropriate precautions, wearing your mask, you're performing your hand hygiene. Even 2-dose vaccinated, you can get COVID-19.
Business and tourism groups say the changes will be a step in the right direction, but they still want to see all testing requirements dropped for all fully vaccinated travelers. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
Now, the latest COVID-19 case counts are out from the province. 793 confirmed cases in the latest provincial reporting. Those include 4 deaths, 31 new cases in Ottawa, 14 in Eastern Ontario, 2 in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, and 6 in Renfrew County. Now let's take a look at your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
It's a cool one. Some flurries this morning, otherwise varying amounts of sun and cloud. A gusty wind out of the west-northwest, and the high only 3 degrees. Tonight, mainly clear, -5. And for the weekend, clouds increase Saturday. Flurries or showers Saturday night into Sunday, and some more showers Sunday. Highs on the weekend about 6 degrees. For today, the high 3.
And I'm Chris Curries. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Heave-hi-ho, the best man in Ottawa was Mapara Joe. Mapara Joe. Big Joe Mapara paddled into Mattawa all the way from Ottawa in just one day. Hey, hey, on the river Ottawa, the best man we ever saw was Big Joe Mapara, the old folks say. Come and listen and I'll tell you what the old folks say. And he say Big Joe had an old pet frog, bigger than a horse, and he barked like a dog. And the only thing quicker than a train upon a track was Big Joe riding on the bullfrog's back. Heave-hi-ho, the best man in Ottawa was Mapara Joe. Mapara Joe.
All right, Bruce McIntyre's here. It's time for Valley View. Bruce.
Rob, it's Friday.
I know it's Friday. Hey, thank you for being accommodative this week.
I'm like a pillow. I just fluff and go with the flow.
I know. You're flexible. And I really appreciate that. So, look, the paper comes out on Wednesday. Bruce is usually here on Wednesday, but we had some big stuff on Wednesday, and we had to delay it, and then we had to delay it again. So,
that's okay.
Look, here we go. Eganville Leader, independently owned since 1902. Bruce was there back in the early days. It's only $2. It's Renfrew County's largest independent circulation newspaper, award-winning. And I mean that, award-winning year after year after year.
We do.
Yep.
And the front page, Rob, you might see my picture. That's me back in 1908 bringing the paper to town.
Holy cow. No, but this is a heck of a front page picture on the Eganville Leader. I wish people could see this. There was a funeral was it in Eganville?
The actual service was in Arnprior.
In Arnprior, and it's a horse-drawn hearse.
Yes.
Wow.
The owner of the hearse is actually in the hearse, Tom Redmond. Great guy. He's a barber. Every town is a small town barber, Rob, and he was it. He had a shop in Cobden, and he was also an auctioneer and a man of all trades. And he passed away after a long battle with cancer. And he had 3 wishes in his life. 1, to be transported by the hearse to the funeral. 2, to have the service in Arnprior, and 3, to be buried in a Mennonite cemetery.
In a Mennonite cemetery.
Yeah. So he's the first non-Mennonite to be buried in the Mennonite cemetery up here.
Wow.
Why
was that? Do you know?
He just grew to appreciate the Mennonites as neighbors. A lot of them were his customers.
I see. Okay.
Got to like the people, and he said, you know what? That's where I want to be buried. So the old hearse, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful carriage. He
really
has
quite
used it for other funerals in the past, some requested funerals, but it was used for his son does the business now, the auctioneering, and also the horse. Tom was a big horse fan. He also brought horses to shows and things, so he was very well known in the community.
Wow,
and it's just a beautiful, beautiful hearse.
Well, it's quite a picture. I've never quite seen a front page picture like that. Front page, Eganville Leader out today, and Bruce McIntyre's here with Valley View. Now, big new business. Well, I mean, it's an old business with a new facility, 33,000 square feet, and it's called the St. Francis Herb Farm.
Yeah.
Tell me about this. Where is it? What's the story behind it?
Well, when I first moved to the valley, who are these hippies up there in the mountains of Killaloe?
Right. It is, a herb farm.
A herb farm.
Like what kind of herb,
They are incredibly successful. That's why they've had to expand. They're quietly under the radar, and the owners moved into this area 3 decades ago. We started it up, and it's just really taken off. And it's a lot of it is online ordering, because to get there, Rob, is difficult. I will admit it. I got lost once trying to find
really?
it.
Okay.
So, but their manufacturing plant is just, I think it's one of the biggest in our county. I'll have to check on that, but I do believe it is.
It's a huge facility. Yeah.
And they do a lot of the difference today. It's online, sending the product out to grocery stores and wholesale manufacturers across Canada. And it's a wonderful local economic story that, again, it's been flying under the radar, because you don't think of, I think of herbs, I think it's a hippie commune up in the mountains. I'm going to go get something. No, it's not like that at all.
Right. It's interesting. So a lot of the product that comes out of there would be used in things like herbal supplements and these kinds of things. And their products are in 400 Loblaw stores. So, I mean, it's a seriously big business.
For Little Berries Bay business, it really is.
Little Berries Bay business. 33,000 square foot. You should see the picture of this facility. My gosh. I wonder what the heating bill is for something like that in the Ottawa Valley.
And our MP and MPP were there for the ribbon cutting, and the MPP was just bursting with joy. That is his hometown, after all. So
that's right. Yeah.
He's had people at that.
Okay.
Did you see the hunt camp? Did you go to the hunt club yet? The hunt camp, Rob.
Hunt camp? No, I haven't seen that story.
I know,
yet.
That's in this piece of paper. If you go to section B, and you'll see on the front, you'll see the picture of our singing page 3 and 4. Sorry, B7. I'm sorry, Rob. B7. I feel like I'm playing bingo.
Okay, just tell us the story, Bruce. Why don't we just get to that? Okay.
The hunt camp is now 98 years old. It's up in the hills of Greater Madawaska. Long-time Liberals. It's a Liberal camp. Everyone that goes there is lifelong Liberals. The Jamesons. It goes on and on. Art ran for the nomination, and son Rob's a electioneer. Just a big thing. So, The 78th birthday for Mr. Guy Jamieson, well-known musician, former teacher, who walks in wearing Tory blue, but Mr. John Yakubuski, MPP, lifelong...
Oh, and he crashes the Liberal hunt camp.
Crashes Liberal hunt camp.
He's lucky he got out of there with his life.
You know what? There's a rack full of rifles that kept staring at him.
I know, I bet. Holy cow.
But it's you wouldn't get this in the big city. This is the blue meets the red, and the only color of common there was orange. And Gar Jamieson said about his brother, when you come to the hunt camp, the politics stays at the door. Red, blue, but we allow orange. We'll allow NDPers in because they make good targets. I said, Bard, you can't say that.
Can't say that.
So anyway, the orange is the color, and John did a great job singing old Mac Beatty tunes, and the musicians were there, all Valley Boys, and they had a great time. And for Guy Jamieson, a 70th birthday, I don't think he'll ever forget. So it's again, I stayed safe. I came out with any no wounds, and Clancy had a great time. So hunt camp is now over. The season is now over for rifles anyway. So we won't see all the ATVs coming in, and a good hunt. I guess the number of deer were lower in the lower lands and higher in the higher lands. So that's what I hear. I'm not sure what that means.
Right. Okay. What was I going to ask?
There's so much.
Yeah. What else is going on? Big news.
Well, unfortunately, we had a double fatality here in town, Renfrew on Monday. There was a fire in a duplex, and I drove by that Monday night, and I saw the two forensic vans out front. I said, uh-oh, that is not good. Everyone just thought it was a fire, and they reported the next day that 2 bodies were found. They went down this past Wednesday for the autopsy. The autopsy yet to release the results. Right now, it's being sealed. The tape is up because they're a crime scene, and that's all the information we have so far. The investigating officer, I haven't been able to get a name yet, but I'll wiggle that out sometime today. So, unfortunately, 2 people passed away in a house fire. There's very little damage to the house itself, very little. And the first thing I thought of was meth lab, because everyone's there and no fire, but no word has come out yet.
Okay.
So
What's happening with the troops in Petawawa?
Yes, that's...
What do you have on that, Bruce?
Well, they were a typical training exercise, and several members, we think it's 7 or 8 is their number, were tested positive for COVID. And what that means is an immediate shutdown of the training personnel that were there, their wives, their children, perhaps goes into the schools. They're on total isolation. And I have a call into the POA to get more information. She hasn't got back to me yet. But all they're saying is typical training exercise. But if you have contact with anyone from Garrison, which is probably down predominantly the Petawawa, Deep River, Pembroke area, take the normal precautions. Remember, think of it was a year ago. Think of like March, April of 2020, what you did. You want to do that now. The over-washing hands, the really being sterile. So it could have a wide range effect on the regiment. That's a lot of people take out of service for one shift, 500 people as a training exercise. So, and I'm not sure where the actual training exercise was. It might have been very well on the base. It is Canada's largest land base for training, so it could be somewhere on the base itself. We don't know that yet. I'm sure you dealt with the military before. They're very, very cautious about giving out information. So you have to sit and wait.
Okay. Any snow on the ground up there yet?
Not a peak. I'm so happy about that. We'll have to get the Snowmobile song in pretty soon, and get that up there.
It won't be long now, I don't think.
I know. Well, we've been lucky so far. Very fortunate. We had a bit of freezing rain on Wednesday. It was nasty, but other than that, no, we've had a dry winter so far. So we're looking forward, and I want to let all the listeners know that we are still. I should mention that the hunting season is not quite over. The bow and arrow is still eligible. So I just got a little tap on the shoulder about that from a colleague who's a hunter.
Okay. All right, Bruce. Look, better late than never.
Yes. Thank you, Rob.
And always better. Thank you so much for this week. And we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
And if your listeners want to get the papers available online, go online. We'll get you a paper, that beautiful horse and carriage.
Excellent. Bruce McIntyre is our Valley correspondent. He's with the Eganville Leader, and often from time to time will do work for City News at ottawa.citynews.ca. 11:15, Steve Warren, the weekend sports and the weekend ahead for the National Football League. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
Well, we all loved our rock T-shirts growing up, right? It was our badge. Hey, we went to this concert. We knew that band inside out. So we kept doing that and kept promoting that. What's sort of happening now is that audience is dying. I always say the earth is flat. So the 60s rockers are falling off the end of the earth. So you don't see as big a sales anymore because my audience is disappearing. What's sort of helping to promote that history is the kids are buying vinyl. And luckily we have a vinyl shop in the neighborhood here, Record Center. So what's happening is I've seen kids come in with their dad. And the dad say, hey, do you have any Beatles shirts? Do you have any CBGB? Do you have any of this? I said, well, why? He said, well, because my daughter's into it. She's wearing my T-shirt. So slowly it's coming back, right? The kids are, I think, getting fed up with the generic music that's out there. And they want to click into something that, first of all, links them to their parents, something that they thoroughly enjoy now, and maybe they're passing it on to their grandkids. Pandemic has been a couple of things, definitely hard on everybody. So much messaging that's out there that people don't understand, stats that every day. Jesus Murphy, like I'm getting a headache just reading this stuff, right? So really it was just trying to understand where we were going to go from there. The city of Ottawa all of a sudden said everybody's got to wear a mask. You got to wear it on the bus. People were scrambling, okay? And I had the store next door had really big windows, so I just flooded the window with masks. Well, that was the activity that saved the business. People were coming in buying 2, 3, 4 masks at a time at $20 a pop here. But my masks were so different. They were the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Queen, all the pop culture. Everything else out there was medical masks. And right, so people said, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to show my rock and roll. So it became the new T-shirt as far as I'm concerned. Well, what I've done, I'm Hindenburg. I'm now at 1114A Wellington Street, which is next door to the Fab Gear store. And the reason I've changed names, I've rebranded the store, is because I was planning on retiring. And in December, I'm going, oh, I'm not going to retire. But I've committed to changing what the store's about. So I came up with a new name, Fab Gear's Rock Shop, where legends are dressed, and essentially get that message out. I prefer, if the shirt don't fit, you come in, you try another one on. People like to feel the fabrics with clothing. It's amazing. You'll come in and go, oh, I love that. Oh, can I try this? So that's the big difference. I'm not out to make a gazillion dollars. I stick the way I am, old school. I take cash, we take cards. Come on in and talk to the owner.
Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
I have to wake up here. Pay attention. It's the Rob Snow Show here on City News. Steve Warren is here. Sensation Podcast. SensationHockey.com. I'm sorry I'm late, Steve. I was just watching. I'll tell you why I'm late. I was just watching. I have my phone open and I was scrolling through Twitter, and you know how that can be when you see a Connor McDavid goal.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he has scored now 2 goals that when the sports networks at the end of the year do the plays of the year, he'll probably have the 2 top goals of the year. I haven't seen anything better than those 2 goals that he scored. I mean,
I was talking about that the other day, Rob, about if you dropped Connor McDavid as he is here in 2021 into a game in like 1978. I don't know if you spent any time watching old reels of old NHL games. He'd probably get out there and score 12 goals a game based on goalie equipment and the way the game was played back then. He's such a special talent, no doubt.
Gosh, it's unbelievable. So look, really not much to report on when it comes to Sens Nation this week, right? It's just they're on a COVID shutdown, really, is what that was the story of the week, right, Steve?
Oh, no question, to get postponed for 3 games. The good news is it looks like they're going to be good to go. They have 10 guys in COVID protocol, but it sounds like as many as 8 may be ready to come off as early as tomorrow. So it looks like they're on target for that game in Colorado on Monday. So that's certainly great news that they'll be able to get that behind them and renew their season. And they'll certainly be renewing it, I think, and well behind the 8 ball because they've had, as you know, a pretty tough start to the season.
Oh, yes. Yeah, very disappointing, very disappointing. I think the Pinto injury is really... It's really hurt them. They haven't been the same. I mean, I know he's such a young player, but they've been good when he's in the lineup, and they haven't been very good when he's not in the lineup. That's really what it comes down to me, because they were struggling before they got hit by COVID. But yeah.
Certainly the center ice depth is what he's a part of. He is, he's only played 17 games, so you hate to kind of put this on him, on his shoulders. But the 17 games, the club's record, 12-4-1. So he adds to that center ice depth, and it was already suspect going into the year. And to a lesser degree, Colin White being probably out for the year, that's a big factor as well. So that's a big miss for sure. And it was such a disappointment for him. He had just missed 9 games, and his first game back, he hurts it again, not getting crunched against the end boards or something typical, but he re-injures himself on a draw, which makes you go, okay, was he 100% healthy coming back? I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, shoulders are funny. You just don't know. But that was certainly disappointing, because clearly the Sens play better when they have that center ice depth. And even though he's only played 17 games, Shane Pinto helps give you that.
So is he done for the season, or?
Don't know yet, but it certainly doesn't bode well when you I mean, you can certainly count on him being out, for at least as long as he was last time. Clearly wasn't nearly ready, and so I'd expect he's gone for at least 9 games. But if we're talking surgery, and I don't believe we are just yet, then I think you're probably looking at a Colin White-like timeline, which would be 4 to 6 months. But all that DJ Smith has thrown out there at this stage of the game is that he's going to be, quote, out for a little bit here.
Okay. So with not much to report on for the Ottawa Senators game-wise, you have to look for something else to talk about. So we Sens Twitter and some in the sports media have been busying themselves taking a look at the career of Daniel Alfredsson and whether it is a Hall of Fame worthy career. Now, you worship at the Church of Alfie. We all know that.
I'm the founder.
Steve. So does Alfie deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? What's the case for that?
I don't think there's any question. Whether he gets in is another matter, but I think he certainly has put together a career that deserves it. Just look at the stats. He had 1,157 points in just over 1,200 games. And if you look at his time in the league and you look at those stats, only 4 players during Alfie's time in the league have more points than Alfredsson did. Jágr, Selanne, Thornton, and Iginla. There's a million variables. First European captain to make a cup final. He led the Sens in almost every offensive stat, 14 times on the national team, Swedish league titles. And that international factor, some will suggest, okay, well, that doesn't really count, but it certainly obviously counted.
But if you've ever been to the Hockey Hall of Fame, it counts for the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Exactly right. That's the argument anytime they put one of the Soviet players from 1972 in there. So it has to count from Alfie's perspective as well. So, I think there's, and I could go on, but there's lots of offensive reasons and variables, intangibles, great guy in the community. Just across the board, I think he is a Hall of Famer.
Nice to see Hossa get in there, though. I was always a big Hossa fan.
Yeah, and I think if I had to pick between Hossa and Alfredsson, just assessing the players, I like Alfie just a little bit more than Hossa. What Hossa had going for him is he left Ottawa and went on to win 3 Stanley Cups elsewhere.
Yeah.
Had Alfie done that, I think there would be a case of a slam dunk there. And I think that whole Stanley Cup argument, I think that held water back in the original 6 when there were only 6 teams. Yeah. But now we're at 32 teams. So there's going to be tons of guys rolling through the Hall of Fame that never win a cup.
Dion Phaneuf retired, of course. When he played for the Leafs, I couldn't stand the guy. And, you hear all these things, self-centered and egotistical, and I don't know, all these things, right? And then he got traded to Ottawa, and all of a sudden you're like, I got to cheer for Dion Phaneuf now. That's how I felt at the time, but I'll tell you what, he won me over. The Sens got good miles out of Dion Phaneuf, and he was good to the club, good to the fans, and I actually became I totally converted into a Dion Phaneuf fan. From can't stand the guy to really, really admire the guy. I don't know about you, Steve. I That's how I feel, anyway.
Well, it's a funny thing when someone takes off a Leaf jersey and puts on an Ottawa Senator jersey, the instant transformation that occurs. I mean, I would say this in that I agree with almost everything you said there, but they didn't get the Calgary Flame version of Dion Phaneuf, and the Toronto Maple Leafs probably didn't either. He had some hard miles on him. He was always a physical player. He was always an SOB to play against. And I think by the time he got to Ottawa, I mean, they got some good games out of him. We'll all remember the 2017 goal in Game 2 against the Boston Bruins. That was an incredible goal and a really important moment in that 2017 run to the Eastern Final. But I do think that, by the end, and that's part of why they bought him out, just the feet weren't there anymore. He just didn't have a step to give. He was never the fastest defenseman to start with, but when he did lose a step, that became really problematic. And unfortunately, that was the beginning of the end of his NHL career, and he called it quits this week.
Week 11 in the National Football League. Steve's Packers, the roll just continues for them. The Broncos, let's just never speak of them again. You just never know what team is going to show up for them. So disappointing. But very clearly to me, I think if you're going to watch one game all weekend, it's got to be Cowboys and Chiefs. What do you think, Steve? Cowboys and Chiefs.
Yeah, and then Kansas City's worked their way back into the discussion. They've been kind of scuffling. They have not been the powerhouse Kansas City Chiefs, but you see them there now at 6-4, and that speaks to the quality of their division. They're number one. They're their first place in their division again, so that is clearly two playoff teams as Dallas rolls in at 7-2. But I think that unlike previous seasons, when you'd look at this, you'd go, oh, that's Chiefs all day long. I think Dallas, across the board, is a better team.
Oh, really?
On both sides of the ball right now. As much as you love Kansas City's offense, and certainly their defense is junk, so being better than KC's defense is not exactly something to write home about. But I think that now you've got a stage where Dallas just fires on all cylinders most every week. And so as good as Kansas City's offense has been in previous seasons, to me, it's a no-doubter, and I think the Cowboys win that thing handily.
Talk to you next week, Steve Warren. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rob.
Yep, bye-bye. Steve Warren of the Sens Nation Podcast, SensNationPodcast.com, SensNationHockey.com. 1128 Queen's Park Weekend Review is going to be a hot one this week, with the Ford government calling a public inquiry into LRT. We'll get into it right after the news on City News.
In Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
This is Friday, the 19th of November. Good morning. I'm Jason White. Right now in Ottawa, it's cloudy and 3 degrees, 2 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news this hour. Health Canada has approved the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 5 to 11. This clears the way for the accelerated delivery of 2.9 million child-sized doses, enough for a first dose for every Canadian child in that age group. In Ottawa, you will have to book your child's vaccine appointment through the provincial portal, but the health minister says that should be available as early as next week. Ottawa's mayor insists he did not exert any political pressure to open the Confederation line in 2019, despite ongoing reliability issues in the final stages of LRT testing. Also on the Rob Snow Show this morning, Jim Watson defended public-private partnerships. The Prime Minister arrives back in Ottawa from the Three Amigos Summit with little to show for his efforts. He did not make much headway trying to defuse an escalating dispute over U.S. President Joe Biden's plan to encourage Americans to buy more electric vehicles. Biden's proposed tax incentive would kneecap Canada's auto industry because it focuses on selling American-made vehicles built with American union labor. The Los Angeles Auto Show is back after a pandemic hiatus. Battery-powered vehicles are in the spotlight. Ford's new F-150 Lightning, fully electric plug-in pickup truck, getting a lot of attention. City News Time, 11:32. I'm Jason White. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Firm.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM.
and 1310 AM.
Okay, the gang's all here. Let's just launch right into it because there's so much to talk about this week. It's time for Queen's Park Week in Review with our MPPs, including Progressive Conservative Goldie Gamari. The riding is Carleton. She's in the Ottawa area today. Good morning, Goldie.
Good morning, Rob.
Good morning. Gilles Bisson is on the road. He is the New Democrat from Timmins. Where are you?
On the road again, back to Timmins.
Back to Timmins. Well, safe travels. I hope you're pulled over.
Yes, I am.
You are pulled over. Okay, great stuff. John Fraser is Liberal for Ottawa South. Yep. Morning, John. Where are you, John?
Good morning. I'm just down the road in Ottawa
Just
South.
down the road. Okay, in Ottawa South. Goldie Gamari, the Ontario government has called a public inquiry into Ottawa's troubled light rail system. Why?
Well, Rob, the people of Ottawa didn't sign up for a failing LRT system. Between phases 1 and 2, Ontario has committed up to $1.8 billion, and we need to make sure this money is used appropriately and that the city of Ottawa is held accountable. The issues placed in stage 1 of the Ottawa LRT have been completely unacceptable and disappointing. The issues are still going on to this day, and as a funding partner for this project, we need certainty that the city of Ottawa will be able to successfully deliver the remaining phases of work for this project. Ottawa Transit riders deserve and expect this certainty as well.
Okay. Now, Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson was reacting to this yesterday. We cornered him here at City News for some comment to get his immediate reaction right after the announcement was made, and this is what Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson had to say yesterday.
Us every second day with an announcement, particularly as you know, the province has not once in the last 2 years expressed any interest or concern about our system. So, if they're, in future, we hope that they give us a heads up if they're going to make a decision that affects our citizens and our system.
Okay. So you haven't cared about light rail in 2 years is one of the accusations, and you've kept the mayor in the dark. How do you respond to that, Goldie Gamari?
I don't know. I feel like Jim Watson has gone through some sort of wormhole and ended up in another alternate reality or dimension or something, because it was literally just 2 or 3 weeks ago that a city, provincial ministry transportation official sent a letter to a city transportation official basically saying that until you resolve the problems with phase 1 of the LRT, we're withholding 10% of the funds. That was literally 3 weeks ago. There are more and more examples that I can provide, but how can Jim Watson say that this is the first time the province has gone involved when there's literally factual documents and evidence proving that this is something that we have been looking at and being involved with for 2 years?
Okay.
That doesn't even include what I've been saying on the radio, what Minister Mulroney has been saying, and what is supposed to happen in the past.
All right, before we get to you, Gilles, we'll go to the other Ottawa MPP, John Fraser, and your reaction to the province calling an inquiry into Ottawa's light rail system. John, your reaction.
My first thought, there must be an election somewhere soon.
I think it's politically motivated.
Oh, no. What I think is, look, as I said last week, the most important thing to people in Ottawa is that light rail's up and running safely, without interruption, reliably, as soon as possible. And I guess the question I have, and I listen to Goldie's answer, is like, the Ontario government has expertise in the Ministry of Transportation, the Ministry of Infrastructure. It has a ton of expertise in Metrolinx, which is building 5 similar rail projects in Toronto. And it's not like this just happened 3 weeks ago.
That's part of the problem, John, is that it's been going on for 2 years, John.
Yeah, but here's my point is, they've done nothing. There's been no offer of assistance. There's no help. With all this expertise in Toronto, they didn't say, hey, guys, we see there's a problem here. Right? You need our help, or we're going to send some people down to give you a hand. There's nothing. But they did send a letter 3 weeks ago. But I'm not sure how that was going to help getting up our system up and running safely and reliably without interruption.
Okay, John. Gilles, Gilles. Now, the New Democrats seem to be supportive of this, Gilles.
Listen, Joel Harden has been pushing on this along with Andrea for quite a long time now, because clearly this P3 went awry. There's something that's happened with this P3, that they designed a rail system that, quite frankly, has citizens in Ottawa worried about, the ability to be able to travel on time and not be stranded and not be able to get home, and the safety of the system. And we've reopened. We've already had a shutdown. So there needs to be some sort of inquiry, and we thank the government for actually listening and heeding our request in order to do this. It's the right thing to do. We need to get to the bottom of the P3. And there's also not just the construction of this, but it's also the maintenance. There's like a fairly
30 years.
Contract.
Yeah, 30 years. Yeah.
And we're not going to get into the details. Everybody knows what it's all about. But clearly there are problems here, and we need to get to it. So we need to provide transparency. Is this more of the same? The Liberals for years were there. They did things like this, and it blew up in their face before. And we need to get to the bottom of it. Why? Because we got to ensure this never happens again, and the people of Ottawa end up with a rail system that makes sense, that works, that's on time, that is safe and affordable. Like, this has been a horrible experience all the way through. And, I thank Mr. Ford for having called this. As you know, Mr. Harden and Mrs. Horvath and others have been calling on this for a while, along with people at City Hall in Ottawa. And let's get to the bottom of it.
Okay. Goldie Gamari, John Fraser seemed to suggest, I don't want to put words in your mouth, John, but you seem to suggest there's political motivations here because the election is around the corner, right? 6 months from election. What does the election have to do with it, Goldie Gamari? Are you doing this because there's an election coming up? Or
nothing to do with it. I think the reason that John and the Liberals don't want the province to look into it is because they're afraid of maybe what might be uncovered because they have an election coming up. At the end of the day, Rob, we want this project to be a success. And recent events have transpired that have resulted in a significant loss of confidence in the city of Ottawa and their ability to get the job done. I mean, the last week, 2 LRT vehicles collided at a maintenance and storage facility, causing damage. A few days ago, OC Transpo reported reduced service and delays on the Confederation line. So how is this political, John? This is about safety. First and foremost, it's about safety. This is about respecting taxpayer dollars, and this is about making sure that these problems do not happen moving forward.
Okay. John?
Yeah, look.
It's about safety. It's not about election politics.
Well, I guess my point is look, if the objective is to get this thing up and running safely without interruption, the provincial government has more than enough expertise. I mean, take away the 2 ministries. You have a world-class rail building company that's building projects in Toronto. We've had problems for more than a year. How come they're not here? That's my point. That's what my point is. And the fact that they haven't been here, I think, is a serious issue. And that's what I'm trying to point out.
Okay, well, whose fault is that? Is that the Ford government's fault, or is that the mayor's fault? The mayor could pick up the phone and say, hey, Metrolinx, we need some help.
Well,
right? Couldn't he do that?
If the government's, what I'm saying is, if the government was as concerned about this as they say they are right now.
Yeah.
They should have been there a year ago.
Okay. Now, I want to pick up on something that Gilles said, because this has been the line from our local left-leaning city councillors, that this is a failure of the P3 model, okay? This is a failure of the P3 model. And I had Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson on my program this morning, and I asked him about this. How can you defend the P3 model when our private partner here in the city of Ottawa has performed so poorly? And this is what he told me this morning.
Well, very simply, the P3 protects taxpayers. That's the bottom line. Any cost overruns, any delays come right out of the pockets of RTG and RTM and not the taxpayers. If this was run 100% by the city, all of the cost overruns for no service and failure to meet specific guidelines would be the responsibility of Ottawa taxpayers. So as you know, Rob, given the fact that for almost 2 full months there was no rail service, the consortium, the private sector consortium, has had to absorb literally tens of millions of dollars. And that's one of the ways we're paying for the no-charge service on all the months of December.
All right, thank you. Yeah, you get the idea. We punish them. We don't pay them.
Yeah, but it costs far less to build without a P3 than it does with a P3, so it's a bit of a bogus argument.
Really?
You know, we've built all kinds of things in Ontario: hospitals, schools, highways, transit systems, subways, and we used to always do it where we hired the private sector who did the building because they're experts at that.
Right.
And you get the private sector to do that kind of work.
Yeah.
But we manage the projects.
You operate it and maintain it.
And also supervise the construction.
Okay.
And it's cheaper, and we've ended up with good results. Were there errors along the way? Absolutely, but not the way that we're seeing P3s. P3s are far more expensive, and they're much more secretive. We can't even look at the maintenance contract, for God's sakes, in Ottawa, because of the way they wrote up those contracts. They're not available for you or I or anybody else to see them, and that's not right.
Okay. Anyone on that?
Well,
P3s?
I mean, I can say that that's probably the only thing that I would agree with Mayor Watson on regarding the LRT fiasco.
I thought you were going to agree with me, Goldie.
Oh, Gilles, I'll agree with you sometimes, but not all the time.
Well, I agreed with you earlier today.
I agree with you. I agree with you that we need.
We'll all be singing Kumbaya by the end of it, I'm sure.
You know, if it wasn't for the P3 model, Ottawa Transit riders would be on the hook for the cost of a broken LRT system too, and that is not something that we can afford right now, especially because before we got elected, our province had the largest subnational debt in North America. So for the NDP to want to impose this additional burden on Ontarians, I think is unfair. And this P3 model is protecting transit riders because it's putting those companies on the hook. And with respect to the maintenance contracts and the negotiations, all that, well, Gilles, that's why, and I'm glad that you're supporting us on this, that's why we're looking into a public inquiry to get to the bottom of this and see what's going on.
All right. I just want to interject one more thing. Sorry, who wants in there?
I just want to say just
John, yes, go ahead, John.
We built the Royal Ottawa Hospital. It was a P3 model here, or an AFP model, whatever you want to call it. But I do want to say one thing to Goldie is, you know, I hear this thing, we have the largest subnational debt. And what Goldie forgets to put the asterisk on that is that the other subnationals don't fund health care. They don't have public health care the way that we do, or public education the way that we do. So, you know, just like, let's put things in context. I know it's
okay. When you're talking about funding, are you talking about the billions of dollars you wasted on the e-health scandal, or what about Orange, or what about all the hydro contracts? Is that what you're talking about in terms of
Ontario Tire Stewardship? Yeah. Don't start us down that road, Goldie. We only have 15 minutes. We can't possibly cover all the Liberal scandals. Okay.
Yeah, well, actually, I could ask Goldie about the $1 billion that you forgave the consortium that owns the 407 just recently.
Okay.
Why did you do that?
P3
tolls.
All right.
Cheaper to do it.
All right, 11:45. Darn it. Okay. Well, all right, we have to stop. We're halfway through already. All right. I don't want to go into Shoppers Drug Mart if people are getting tested in there for COVID and they have symptoms. We're going to talk about that, and where's the $10 a day daycare? What's taking so long? When we come back, this is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
It started out with a small outdoor booth in what was called Artist Alley, which is actually the area just outside our store on William Street, where for a couple of years we sold our jewelry directly on the street. And then we slowly evolved to having an indoor location in this building, 55 Barwood Market Square. We then moved to another location in Place de Ville, and then moved back down here on Dalhousie Street at Ear Gear in the 90s, and then back into this building again in 2000 as a collection. I do a collection of jewelry called Cirque that's mainly beaded work with a combination of semi-precious and vintage beads. And then she does a hat collection called Fanfreluche that's all cut and sewn hats in a variety of fabrics and for all of the seasons of the year. We've curated and sourced the artisans that we represent in a lot of different ways over the years since it's been, since 1985. Some people come to us since we're known, and other artisans that we represent might recommend that they come and see us. Some people we find at craft shows, or we see their work, somebody wears it in, and we go and track it down and bring it. And then some people, interestingly, are with us in one medium, and then sometimes they evolve to another. They're all Canadian and mainly local. With the roughly 50 people that we have, I'd say more than half of those are Ottawa-Gatineau, and then the rest are from other cities in Canada, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, etc. If you can afford it, go to a small business and spend some money. It's lovely when you come in and, give me a pep talk and tell me how much you love this place and you've been coming here for years. But if you can afford it, please spend some money too, because all the pep talks in the world are not going to pay my rent, which is still full rent even when we're closed. Then secondly, if you can't afford to spend money, follow the businesses that you want to support on social media. Go to their Instagram, go to their Facebook, follow their Twitter, and then retweet, share their Facebook page, like and comment, because if you can't afford to, as many of us can't right now, to do extra expenditures, doing all of those little things like that will raise the visibility of those small businesses, and hopefully for them result in some online or curbside or other business for them.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
We're back with John Fraser, Liberal MPP, Ottawa South, Gilby-Saw. Somewhere on the way to Timmins. He's the MPP for Timmins, New Democrat. Goldie Gamari is the Progressive Conservative for the riding of Carleton. Gilles, why don't you take this one? The Ontario government is looking to expand COVID-19 testing in pharmacies to include symptomatic individuals. I don't know. I don't want to go into Shoppers Drug Mart or any pharmacy for that matter. If people are in there, they're symptomatic, they have symptoms of COVID-19, they're in there for a test, let alone my frail grandmother or something like that. What do you think about this? The government says all the health officials have signed off on it, but what do you think, Gilles?
Well, listen, it's not all the health officials that have signed off on it. Some have, but a lot have not. Listen, I think you've raised the point, is that Andrew Horwath and New Democrats have been raising from the beginning of this idea that, COVID testing centers need to be places where they're safe when it comes to making sure that we don't elevate the risk of retransmitting the disease to other people. If you're going to a pharmacy, is there going to be the type of protocols and the type of area needed in order to make sure that those people walking to the pharmacy are not walking by other people that are not infected? And I know I deal at my Shoppers Drug Mart in Timmins, is where I get my medication, and I walk through and see all kinds of people as I'm walking to where I pick up my prescription, and there's nowhere there that is isolated to be able to make sure that it's tested. So should we increase testing facilities? I think the easier you make testing, the more people will get tested, the better that is. I support the government on that point. But we don't need to do it in places. If there's a pharmacy out there that can provide that safe environment, a separate entrance, et cetera, of course we can look at that. But just to allow them to do it for the sake of, allowing them to do it, I think is not a good idea.
Okay. I will just point out, almost 800 cases today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Scary. Let's hope
it's getting up there. It's getting up there. I mean, our vaccination rates are superb. So,
we're doing well.
That's good. So,
Ontarians have been really good. We have to thank Ontarians for that.
Yeah, John, and then John, and then Goldie. John, on this.
Just quickly. But the first thing I want to say is, Jill was asking about those contracts that were not visible to the public. If he just goes to the Ottawa website, I went to it during the break, he'll find all the things he said weren't available. Just so I know you're interested.
Go tell City Council that. There's council members who can't get them.
All right. I don't want to go. Come on.
Well, come on.
Let's move along. Can we move along? John, you're taking us backwards, John.
If there's a scandal, I'm going to go running.
Taking us backwards. Taking us backwards. John. All right.
I just want to correct this. I know Jill.
How redacted, John?
Goldie.
How is it a schedule?
Oh my.
Goldie. Can I say a word? Okay, just go to the website.
The three of you people drive me crazy sometimes.
First of all,
John started it, not us.
Yeah.
We were talking about something else.
I know, right? John just wanted to focus on
John.
We can talk about liberal scandals if you want, John.
Okay, Goldie. Thanks. On pharmacy,
you are too much. You are too much this week, Fraser. I'm telling you what.
I know I am. But just on pharmacies, it's just a bad idea. I don't know any public health official that is saying, if you feel sick and think you might have COVID, go to the pharmacy or go to the grocery store or go to the mall. Like even the chief medical officer of health said yesterday, well, it'd be ideal if they had a separate entrance.
No kidding.
It's just like they're going to do the 600 stores, the 1,300 stores. And what this is all about, it's not actually about managing COVID well. It's about somebody cornering the market on COVID shots, a company cornering the market on, COVID tests. That's exactly what it's about, because it's not good public health.
What company?
Well, you can find it. You can find it in the paper.
That was careful.
It's one company.
What company? What company?
Shoppers Drug Mart.
Shoppers Drug Mart. Okay. All right. That's what you think?
Yeah.
What is it, like Doug Ford's helping out Shoppers Drug Mart or something, or is that your accusation?
There's a lot of connections and there's been a lot of activity, but it's just like, why are we doing this now?
Okay, all right.
I don't think we're at that.
Is that what's going on, Goldie? Is that what's going on? Doug Ford is helping out the Westons again?
Well, I mean, if you actually listen to what Dr. Morris said yesterday, who's Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health, he said that we, and when I mean we, I'm quoting him, we've worked with Public Health Ontario, the College of Pharmacists, to be able to provide advice for infection prevention and control. They have an extensive guideline that will help pharmacists through the process of establishing testing for symptomatic individuals. It should include a separate entrance, specific distancing, the placement of a medical mask. Appointments need to be booked in advance, so it's going to be appointment only, and the staff will be all prepared to have the best practices for infection prevention and control. The space should be a separate facility from the normal prescribing, from their immunization area, and all that's outlined, and all of that is outlined in their guidelines, which was made in partnership with the Ontario College of Pharmacists and Public Health Ontario. And the reason this is coming out now is because we've had over a year and a half of experience now in providing assessment and testing. And so Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health believes that this can be done in a very safe way. And it's important for Ontarians to have accessible and available testing for rapid turnaround time, especially when, John, you might live in a urban or suburban, densely populated area, but there's a lot of places in Ontario, including in Carleton and my riding, where people do not have access to centralized testing facilities.
Well, Jill is Northern Ontario. I mean,
Listen, first of all, not every health professional agrees with your assessment, Goldie, and I respect that you said what you said. But the reality is that most of these pharmacies can't live to that standard. They're not designed in that way. So we need to have proper testing facilities in order to make sure that when we do the test, we don't retransmit the disease. And the fact that we're 800 today, nobody's happy about that. We all want it to be zero, and Ontarians have shown that by getting vaccinated at high rates. But let's not take chances to get this thing going again, and we end up in a place that we don't want to be.
That's why this is made by the Chief Medical Officer of Health. The Chief Medical Officer of Health made these standards and guidelines.
He qualified himself yesterday because he said, well, it'd be ideal if they had a separate entrance. Now, the thing is, you're expanding this 600 stores now to 1,200 stores.
What are you saying he qualified? I read you a direct quote from the transcription of what he said.
My sentence, Goldie? Just one sentence, okay? One sentence. It'll be a long one.
Get to it, Fraser.
Come on. Goldie, the tests have to be sent away. They're not done on site. And if we really are trying to address a situation where we need to help a community have a point of testing that's better for them.
Okay.
I think there's a more specific way of doing that.
Gotta go.
And it doesn't really rely on just one company.
Are we thinking kumbaya today?
No, kumbayas today. No. Here we go. That's it, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll talk later. Bye-bye. John Fraser, Liberal MPP, Ottawa South. She'll be on the way to Timmins. That's his riding, Timmins. He's a New Democrat. Goldie Gamari, PC MPP, her riding, Carleton. Rob Snow Show returns on Monday at 9 o'clock on City News.
The Rob Snow Show.
Weekdays at 9 on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV.